When others are transported to another world, they become noble ladies or princesses. This girl, however, was reborn as the stepmother of a child. Not only did she have an unsightly husband, her son was also a deranged boy with a taste for imprisoning people. After a full day of panicking, Leela finally accepted her new reality. Now was no time for grief. If she wanted to survive, she had to get on good terms with her husband and son. But between the cold husband and the unhinged son, which one should she try to win over first? Just then, she heard voices outside the window. Looking up, she saw an adorable little boy. A jolt ran through her. If he belonged to this household, wasn't he her deranged son? A child this cute was nothing at all like the cruel monster described in the novel. Leela had no idea how to even begin. The original story had mentioned that the male lead and his mother had a terrible relationship, so she could only hide in the shadows with her maid and watch, gazing at such an adorable child. She couldn't understand why the original heroine had simply neglected him. To her surprise, she was spotted the very next second. "Who's there?" Leela had no choice but to step out and greet him awkwardly. But the little one ignored her completely and turned to leave. Leela didn't want to miss such a good chance, so she crouched down and tugged at her son's sleeve. "Katie, could you stay?" But the boy shook off her hand and shouted, "I don't want a mother." He ran off so fast that he tripped and fell. Faced with this suddenly affectionate mother, Kotti was at a loss. "You never cared about me before. Why are you putting on this act now?" With that, he stormed off in a huff, leaving Leela utterly bewildered. That night, she was still thinking about the day, wondering whether Kotti's scrape had healed. It seemed their relationship was even worse than she'd expected. Still, sudden closeness would only fluster the boy. She would have to take it slow. Seeing the letters on the table, she thought of a good idea. She handed a letter to her maid to deliver on her behalf, hoping it would help her grow closer to Katie. The next morning, Kotti woke to find a gift placed beside him. He grumbled about it, yet his hands were already reaching out. Inside, he found a teddy bear, a letter, and a pink box of ointment. When he opened the letter, it was brimming with Leela's care and motherly love. Kotti was puzzled. The mother who had always found him a nuisance, why had she suddenly become so kind? Grumbling all the while, he stuffed the letter into a drawer. Little did he know the servant saw right through him and tucked every letter away for safekeeping. As usual, the gift was simply thrown aside. But looking at the little bear, Kotti hesitated. "Just throw away the box. Leave the doll in my room." Pouting and refusing to admit his feelings, he added, "It's not because mother gave it to me. I just happen to like bears." He even asked the servants to pass along a message for him. Elsewhere, Leela was thrilled to receive a reply, certain that all her days of effort had finally paid off. But when she opened it, the note read, "Stop sending letters and gifts." Still, even a rejection was a response. She would simply have to be patient. She decided to set aside winning over her husband for now and focus on Kotti. So she asked where Kotti was at the moment, and was told he was in the garden. Could it be that he wants to see me? She quickly got dressed and hurried off toward the garden. Sure enough, the little one was sitting there alone, staring at the pastries already laid out without touching a single one. "Could it be that you're waiting for me?" Blushing, Katie answered stubbornly, "No, this is just a place I come to often. Then I'll simply watch you from behind. I promise I won't disturb your rest, Kotti." She slipped behind him and gazed at her son eating his sweets with utterly besotted eyes. Today, too, Katie was especially adorable. A week later, however, Leela fell silent as she stared at a table covered in invitations. She rapidly wrote out identical replies, one after another. Now was no time for socializing. Watching Kotti eat cake in the garden kept her plenty busy. She had even started keeping an observation journal for the occasion. Today he frowned at me, so adorable. When I spoke to Kotti, the way he ignored me was adorable. Today I greeted Kotti and he gave a little nod. So adorable. This odd line of thinking made even the maid sigh inwardly. Did my lady hit her head? Isn't this basically a journal about an enemy? She hesitated, then suggested showing it to the young master. To her surprise, this sparked Leela's interest. "Do you think showing it to Kotti would bring us closer?" She couldn't wait to go show it to her son, leaving the maid dumbfounded. Has my lady truly lost her wits? Against all odds, this actually did strengthen their bond. With a single bear-shaped lollipop, Leela successfully made her way into her son's room. To her surprise, the furnishings inside looked nothing like a child's. Yet she unexpectedly spotted the teddy bear she'd given him lying neatly on the bed. Trying to hide it with a pillow only gave him away. I just haven't gotten around to throwing it out. So what did you come here for? Leela proudly produced her journal. Mother wrote this. Would you like to read it? Seeing how bashful he'd looked while reading it, she figured he was still an innocent child who knew nothing of love, surely incapable of imprisoning anyone. Just then, a flock of pigeons flew overhead, and Leela casually asked her son what he would do if he came across a precious bird. Katie answered offhandedly, "Then I'd build it an exquisite cage." Leela was still delighted that her son was kind enough to make the bird a beautiful home. When Kotti went on, "Since it's a precious bird, it should be locked away so it can never go anywhere. Beautiful things are meant to be kept and admired." The remark left Leela stunned. She took back everything she'd just thought, for this was unmistakably the male lead as a child. Looking perfectly innocent, Katie asked his mother why she'd gone quiet. Leela could only smile awkwardly. Your idea surprised Mother a little, Katie. Inwardly, she was in a panic. Where had it all gone wrong? Could the male lead have been different from everyone else even in childhood? What on earth was she supposed to do now? After that, Leela spent every day pondering how best to raise the child, so lost in thought that she didn't hear the maid call her several times. My lady, what's wrong? Is something troubling you? After a moment's thought, Leela decided not to tell the maid. But the maid began guessing on her own. Is it because the master is coming home soon? The maid's words struck Leela with sudden clarity. Wasn't the master she spoke of her own husband? Raising a child should be a shared effort between husband and wife. She should use this as a reason to find a chance to talk with him. She had already devised a plan to grow closer to her husband for the child's sake. So she asked when the Duke would return. Probably within a day or two. Are we moving somewhere else? The question left Leela confused. What do you mean? Lately, you've been so loving toward the young master, and the mood throughout the manor has greatly improved. So I have a favor to ask. When the master returns, could you welcome him for once? Leela was at a loss for words. Just how bad was the original heroine's relationship with her husband? She agreed without hesitation. After all, a strained marriage would affect the child too. Tell everyone in the ducal manor that I will hold a grand welcoming ceremony. My adorable child must never become someone with blood on his hands. Now that I am his mother, I will save him. The maid was overjoyed at the news and dashed off to make preparations. Humming happily as she worked through some documents, Leela suddenly remembered something. What is my husband's name? Meanwhile, the Duke, nearly home, grew downcast. Will I be shut out again this time? I wonder if she's even home. To his surprise, he saw a crowd standing at the manor's gate. The Duke was astonished. This was the first time anyone had ever come to greet him, and his own wife had come in person, no less. Welcome home, my lord. I've been waiting for you. The Duke stood frozen for a long while, then suddenly spoke. Am I hallucinating? Someone fetch a doctor at once. His knight hurriedly assured him it was no illusion, but the Duke, still in disbelief, kept staring at Leela. Until Leela reminded him, It's quite cold out here, let's go inside. Perhaps she truly had hit her head last time. It took him a long moment to steel himself before agreeing to go in. Leela deliberately had the maids leave the two of them alone. The Duke glanced around warily. Why is there no one here? Then he saw his smiling wife. It was the first time he'd seen her smile like this, and his hand instinctively reached for her shoulder. Let's go have dinner first. The Duke was puzzled. Is there some reason to go to the dining hall? Smiling, Leela pulled out a chair. There's something I'd like to tell you. Throughout the meal, however, he sulked in stubborn silence. Leela was frustrated too. What had gotten into him? He was being so cold to a wife who had prepared everything in advance. Cutting into her steak in irritation, she thought about how to start the conversation. My lord, there's something I want to say. The Duke remained aloof. Then go ahead and say it. Leela forced herself to speak. The campaign must have been exhausting. It's truly no easy task. At that, the Duke set down his knife and fork. Wouldn't you have preferred I'd been wounded? Be honest, what is it you want? Leela kept a smile on the surface, though inwardly she'd already thrown a few punches at him. This man was far too guarded. I'd like to talk with you about the child's upbringing. Faced with his wife's sudden change of heart, the Duke couldn't believe it. Don't you hate me? Why are you putting on this show of affection? Leela rushed over to explain. No, I'm not putting on an act. But in her haste, the very next moment she suddenly collapsed straight to the floor. Fortunately, the Duke dashed over and caught his wife. Leela wanted to say more, but the pain in her stomach left her unable to utter a word. The man who had been mocking his wife just moments ago could no longer hold back his feelings for her and cried out for a doctor. He anxiously asked why this had happened so suddenly. Leela couldn't help retorting, "You have the nerve to ask? I welcomed you so warmly, and you didn't even thank me. You sat through dinner with a sour face. How is a body that just recovered supposed to endure that?" The Duke turned his face away, sorrowful. "Don't you despise me? Whenever I came near, you'd scream at me to get out." He took Leela's hand. "It's as if you remember nothing at all. Your hand felt so cold just now. Even if you don't like it, let me hold it for a while." The doctor, rushing in a fluster, broke the tender moment, and the Duke took his leave at just the right time. Leela's carefully laid plan to grow closer to her husband for their son's sake had failed completely. She never imagined that getting close to the two men of the house would be so difficult. Early the next morning, Leela was woken by birdsong and set about reviewing yesterday's plan. A cozy dinner clearly wasn't going to work. Her stomach was still churning. She would have to quickly think of another approach. Just then, someone knocked. Leela was puzzled. She'd already told the maid not to let anyone in. If someone came at this hour, it had to be either Kotti or the Duke. With a flutter of excitement, she opened the door to find her adorable son holding a bear-shaped lollipop. Calm on the outside, but already turning somersaults inside, she was certain her son had come because she'd fallen ill. Faced with his emotional mother, the little one turned his face away with feigned indifference. "Hurry and eat it. It'll make you feel better." Smiling, Leela took it. "Thank you for thinking of Mother." Struck by his mother's dazzling smile, Kotti instantly flushed red. Refusing to admit his true feelings, he said, "It's not like I wanted to come. The maid made me." Leela saw through the little one's pretense but didn't call him out. "Either way, I'm grateful you came, Kotti." Blushing, the little one kept staring at Leela, then suddenly crossed his arms like a little adult. "If dining tires you to the point of indigestion, then don't eat with Father anymore." Leela took it as concern and explained with a smile, "Once I get used to it, it won't be a problem." But Kotti's face darkened. "You mean you'll dine with him again?" Leela wailed helplessly inside. "I don't want to either, it's all for your sake." But Kotti unexpectedly raised his voice. "Aren't you going to be with Father? So every mealtime will be like this from now on." With that, he dashed off, and Leela immediately realized the little one might be jealous of his father. She stepped forward and pulled the angry Kotti into her arms. "To Mother, you are the most important of all, Kotti. Time spent with you is more precious to me than time with anyone else." Watching her silent son, she thought he still disliked her. But the next second, he threw his arms around her. "When you're sick, Mother, you have to rest. And remember to eat my chocolate, all right?" She never knew that having such an adorable child could be such a happy thing. A few days later, Leela finally recovered and prepared a gift for Kotti. She had made it herself after consulting the head chef, hoping Kotti would like it. Full of anticipation, she came to the garden and found the little one there, just as expected. Seeing Leela arrive, he even thought to ask after her health. Once seated, she took out the cake she'd made with her own hands. The little one's eyes lit up the moment he saw it, and he eagerly picked it up to taste. The next second, his little face filled with dismay. Under the hopeful gazes of them both, he blurted out, "This tastes awful!" But upon learning that Mother had made it, he began devouring it. Leela couldn't stop him even if she tried. Between bites, he explained, "I'm fine. I'm eating it because I want to." After finishing one piece, he wiped his mouth and asked for another. Leela watched the little one across from her, deeply moved. How could this possibly be the deranged male lead? He was clearly just an ordinary, adorable child. "Thank you. Mother will keep trying her best." The next day, Leela decided to resume her plan to grow closer to her husband for their son's sake. So she eagerly knocked on the door of his study. It was the Duke's assistant who answered. Leela walked cautiously to the desk. There's something I'm unsure about. Could we speak privately?" To her surprise, the Duke flatly refused his wife with a curt, "I'm busy." His icy tone was like snow drifting on a winter's day. He even added, "Did you not hear me? I'm busy. Please leave." Being a perceptive working man, the assistant quickly offered to step out himself. "That won't be necessary. Return to your post." Leela was left speechless. Did he truly not have a moment to talk with his own wife? In the end, she had no choice but to leave. and the moment she stepped out, she mimed unleashing a flurry of furious blows at the Duke. It seemed the Duke wouldn't be won over so easily. She'd have to find another excuse to come back next time. The next day, Leela sat in her room pondering which fairy tale to read to her son that afternoon. Just then, the maid handed her a letter. Leela was puzzled. Hadn't she already declined all the previous invitations? Then she suddenly recalled the one she'd forgotten about when the maid interrupted her last time. She groaned helplessly. A birthday party. To her surprise, the maid suddenly brimmed with enthusiasm. "Are we preparing a birthday banquet for the young master?" "There's still plenty of time, but I'll do my very best." Still, the name Marquis Fenzel sounds familiar somehow. Then she remembered. He was the golden-haired beauty from the book who served at the Land Administration Bureau. But if he worked at the Land Administration Bureau, then wasn't he the very one Kotti would one day do away with? A complicated, unspoken feeling welled up in Leela toward her son. Surely Kotti wouldn't harm him now. That's right. I will raise him into a normal child no matter what. Meanwhile, the Duke was still waiting for his wife to come. Ever since the fainting incident, she'd been acting strange. Before, she had always been cold and distant, and had never once smiled at him. But lately his wife kept finding all sorts of excuses to come see him, always with a smile on her face. He secretly wondered whether she would come and smile at him again today. He was so distracted that ink had nearly bled through the page without his noticing. His love-struck behavior thoroughly alarmed his assistant. "My lady seems later than usual today. Shall I go and check?" To his surprise, the Duke rose at once, making the excuse, "It's too stuffy in here. I need a walk." He left his miserable assistant alone with a mountain of documents, but not before pausing at the door to remind him, "If you're looking for my lady, she often goes to the garden. I hope the two of you have a lovely time." As he neared the library, he heard his son shout, "Liar!" followed by his wife's voice. "Why does our Kotti call mother a liar? You always go to him first. Didn't you say I was the most important? Do you really enjoy being with father that much?" Hearing this, the Duke could no longer stay composed, but before he could even feel pleased, he heard Leela say, "Of course being with Kotti is best of all." The little one pouted, still unsatisfied. Leela took her son's hand. "Actually, I wanted to ask whether you'd like to attend Marquis Fenzel's birthday with mother. Does that mean we have to bring a gift?" When she answered yes, tears suddenly welled up in his eyes. "You've never once prepared a birthday gift for me." This suddenly stirred a memory belonging to the original heroine. On his birthday, the little one had only wanted a single word of blessing from his mother, yet he'd been met with cold indifference. She never realized the original heroine had been so cruel to the child. Just recalling it broke her heart. Leela did her best to soothe Kotti's feelings. "I'll never leave you alone again. Shall we throw a grand birthday feast for our Kotti?" The little one was about to refuse, but the mention of an enormous birthday cake tempted him terribly. Still, all he said aloud was a stubborn whatever. Leela never imagined that the gift Kotti wanted most was simply her birthday blessing. Thinking of how he used to be, Leela's heart broke all the more. "Then set aside some time for mother tomorrow. How about we hold the party in your favorite garden, Kotti?" The Duke, who had been hiding outside the door the whole time, caught the crucial detail. A party would be held in the garden tomorrow. For this, he made his assistant work overtime alongside him to finish all their tasks ahead of schedule. The next day, he arrived at the garden bright and early, only to find they'd had no intention of inviting him. They were already at the part where they sang the birthday song. Amid everyone's blessings, the little one blew out the candles. Leela kept feeling as though someone were watching her. Turning her head, she met the Duke's gaze. "My lord, what brings you here?" What are you all doing?" Leela gestured to the crowd in the garden. "As you can see, we're having a birthday party. Katie said he dislikes crowds, so it's only a few close people." The Duke felt a sudden flash of displeasure. "Why are you always doing such unusual things?" Leela couldn't help grumbling inwardly. The man who always claimed to be so busy, why had he suddenly turned up here? And so the two of them launched into a heated back and forth. For some reason, Leela could only recall the original heroine's affairs in fragments, so she had no answers to the Duke's questioning. Still, she remembered to invite him to take part in Kotti's upbringing. But the Duke asked something entirely unrelated. "Ever since we began, you've been calling our son by his pet name. Why is it that you only ever call me my lord? Don't tell me you don't even know my name?" Leela was instantly dumbstruck. She had even made a point of asking the maid earlier. She wanted to play dumb and brush it off, but the Duke kept pressing. In her panic, she blurted out his pet name, Kiri. The Duke's heart instantly raced. But he kept his composure and silently turned his face away. Leela wondered if she'd said something wrong. Unable to recall his full name, she'd called him by his pet name on a whim. She explained awkwardly, "It's because I wanted to call you Kiri. Is that all right?" The Duke was no longer listening. His mind was full of a single thought. She used to call me my lord, and now she calls me Kiri. Could it be that she's opened her heart to me? If this keeps up, I just might... Then, blushing, he tossed out a single line. "I have matters to attend to. I'll be going now." And with that, he walked off so stiffly that his arm and leg moved in unison, vanishing from Leela's sight. The moment the Duke left, Katie came trotting out and grabbed hold of his mother's skirt. "What did you and father talk about?" "We didn't talk about anything." She wondered if the child wanted his father's blessing too. The thought had never even crossed her mind. So she crouched down to apologize. "Are you upset because mother didn't invite father to your birthday party?" "The truth is, father wanted to bless you too, Kotti. He was just so busy that he left without saying goodbye." But the little one didn't want his father's blessing at all. He only wanted mother to come back and share the cake. Leela couldn't help crying out inside. "Our Kotti is just too adorable." Under everyone's gaze, the little one nibbled at his cake, remembering to ask his mother whether she'd bless him again in the future. His adorable manner melted everyone's hearts. "Every year from now on, I'll give you my blessing, Kotti." And every birthday feast that followed grew grander still. Tears slipped down Leela's cheeks against her will, and a voice rose in her heart. "I hope you can forgive me just once, even if I'll never hear it." Seeing his mother suddenly burst into tears, Katie grew flustered too. They say sweets can lift your spirits. "The cake is delicious. Have a taste." Leela opened her mouth and ate the cake from Kotti's hand. Perhaps it was the strange memory that had just surfaced, but she felt as though she didn't deserve to be this happy. A few days later, after answering her social correspondence, Leela found herself unsure of where to go. Her son was unhappy that she'd come to him late, and demanded she come to him first next time. Meanwhile, Leela continued visiting the Duke every day as usual. And this time, for the first time ever, he actually had her stay. Then he asked, "Could you come to me first this time?" Leela was driven to despair by this father and son. How could they be so identical? She had only one body. How could she be in two places at once? As Leela agonized over it, her maid offered a solution, which led to the scene now unfolding. The three of them sat in the same room without a single word. Leela pretended to sip her tea, unable to fathom how things had come to this. It couldn't go on like this. So she tried to speak and ease the tension, but the moment she got out a word or two, both of them turned in unison. "Did you call me? What is it?" Caught off guard, Leela said awkwardly, "I wasn't calling you, my lord. I meant Kiri." She never expected the Duke to be so fond of that offhand pet name. Leela had to repeat herself. "I was calling our Kotti." Even without looking, she could feel the Duke's stare. Leela chose to ignore it. "Do you remember we agreed to go celebrate a birthday?" Holding the upper hand, Katie looked smug. "You mean the one where just you and I go, mother?" He even put deliberate emphasis on just you and I. Hearing this, the Duke unconsciously snapped his pen in two with no mind left for his work. To make sure Kotti wouldn't bully the Marquise's son, Leela had Kotti promise to get along nicely with children his own age. Kotti obediently agreed to his mother's request, so well behaved that Leela couldn't help showering him with praise. But before she could finish, she was interrupted by papers flying about the room and the Duke's tremendous coughing. Seeing the commotion, Leela could only walk over to check on him. "Are you all right? Should I call a doctor?" The Duke didn't answer. Instead, he caught hold of his wife's hand. "Do you really love our son that much?" Leela was puzzled by his sudden question. "Of course, he's our son." Both of them were pleased to hear it, one over the word our, the other over, "Of course I love our son." Leela never imagined the two of them were so easily satisfied, a far cry from how wary they'd been at first. The next day, mother and son went to the birthday banquet in matching outfits, but the little one secretly tugged off his own tie underneath. Then he sweetly asked his mother to tie it for him. She'd just finished when a figure appearing behind her gave her a start. "Have you come to see us off?" The Duke quickly invented an excuse that he'd merely stepped out on some errand, so clumsy a lie that his assistant could only shake his head at it. At the crucial moment, it fell to the assistant. "My lady, how marvelous, your travel route happens to be exactly the same as the Duke's. Why not share a carriage?" Before he could finish, Katie flatly refused. Leela also thought today's carriage was too small to seat them all. But noticing how strange the mood was between the two of them today, she guessed the Duke wanted to bond with his son, and that Katie kept refusing only out of shyness. As his mother, she naturally wanted to help, so she suggested preparing a second carriage so the Duke and Kotti could ride together. Both of their expressions froze in an instant, and they immediately walked off in opposite directions. Leela had a feeling she'd said the wrong thing again. She quietly climbed into the carriage, but the little one didn't seem to have cooled down yet. So Leela resorted to her most tempting trick. "I hear that at every one of Marquis Fenzel's parties, there are wonderfully delicious sweets." Sure enough, at the mention of sweets, Katie's eyes lit up. "I even asked them specially to make your favorite walnut pie." The little one finally couldn't help showing a look of anticipation, then suddenly remembered he was supposed to be angry, and turned his face away stubbornly. "It's not as if I'm some child who only cares about food." Soon the carriage arrived at Marquis Fenzel's manor. After stepping down, the little one gallantly helped his mother out of the carriage. The moment they entered, they saw an array of exquisite sweets. Watching Kotti try to feign displeasure while clearly delighted, Leela found him absolutely adorable. Up ahead, Marchioness Fenzel came forward to greet them. Leela greatly admired the Marquis family's image orb, which, like a camera, could turn pictures into a photo album. A burst of flame flickered around Katie's face, and his expression turned cold. "If you photograph me, I won't let it go." She could only lament that someone so adorable couldn't be captured on film. What followed was a private battlefield between the two of them. Leela followed the Marchioness to the garden, and before she could even sit down, she was met with cutting remarks. "So this is the lady of House Rapala. Now that everyone's here, may I ask a question? I bought a dog, and perhaps because it's so expensive, it refuses to obey its master." She then looked at Leela. "What do you think, Lady Rapala?" Still, Leela gave her honest opinion. "Perhaps you should patiently teach it to behave a little better." But two others couldn't resist cutting in. "I don't think a mere dog is worth that much effort. A disobedient one should be dealt with at once. No matter how expensive, a dog that doesn't know its place is best replaced." Leela immediately realized their words carried a hidden meaning. The dog and its master referred to her and the Duke. What was wrong with these people? Fortunately, they dropped the subject afterward, so Leela decided to pay it no further mind. But the heavy-set woman started in again. "I imagine if the Duke allows you to invite guests to the manor, a husband ought to heed his wife. I think you could invite me." Leela demurred, saying it wouldn't be proper without the Duke's consent. "Oh my, it seems the Duke treats you even more like a—" Before she could finish, the Marchioness cut her off. "I, too, have a very lovely pet parrot, though sometimes I can't make out what it says. It keeps blurting out rude things out of nowhere, and I've no idea where it picked them up." Beside her, Leela was moved nearly to tears. The Marchioness was on her side. She quickly chimed in. "So how do you correct it? What can one do? It's only a bird, after all. How could you dispose of it over a few rude words? It's not as if it's carrying on an affair with a royal knight behind my back." At that, the heavy-set woman flushed crimson. Seeing her secret exposed, she tossed out a hurried, "I have matters to attend to," and fled the garden. Her little hangers-on slipped away right after. After this, Leela's admiration for the Marchioness flowed like a mighty river. The garden soon emptied until only the two boys remained. Facing the enemy from his past life, the first thing the boy did was compete over whose mother praised them more. Katie was at the table eating walnut pie, when the boy who suddenly approached interrupted him. Kotti looked faintly disdainful. If not for his mother's specific instructions, he never would have played with such a childish boy. Still, he generously offered the boy a piece. "This is walnut pie my chef made specially for my party. Aren't you envious?" "Not in the least." Then Katie remembered his mother's words about getting along with other children, so he quietly endured the boy's chatter. But when he heard, "My mother praises me every day, does yours?" Kotti could no longer resist competing. "My mother praises me so often I'm almost tired of it." "I don't think so. My mother surely does it better than yours." "Not at all. You've no idea how often my mother praises me." And so the two of them stood there bragging about their mothers for a full 10 minutes, until a chubby boy interrupted them. He marched up and pointed at Kotti. My mother says he's a wild dog with barbarian blood, and that anyone who plays with him will be cursed. Katie merely asked, "Can you take responsibility for what you just said?" The remark left the chubby boy breaking out in a cold sweat. Just then, the heavy-set woman who had fled earlier came looking for her child. Seeing this, Kotti couldn't help remarking, "He really does look just like his mother." Elsewhere, the two mothers were still exchanging parenting tips. Suddenly, Leela felt a splitting headache. As an unfamiliar memory surged in, a man pointing at the young Leela and shouting, "You must use that face of yours to forge ties with the nobility." By the looks of it, the man was the original heroine's father. Afterwards, she prepared to go find Kotti and head home. On the way to the courtyard with the Marchioness, she kept worrying whether Kotti might get into a fight, for the scenes from the novel were still vivid in her mind. But then she heard that Katie had been brought to tears. She rushed at once to the scene. Seeing his mother, the tearful Kotti ran straight into her arms. Who made my child cry? In Leela's eyes, bullying her was one thing, but bullying Kotti was absolutely unacceptable. "Madame Chatti, you'd best explain what happened." Trembling, the heavy-set woman stammered out an explanation. "My child made a small mistake. He said your son has barbarian blood in his veins. But you know it was only children's banter. Do you really think this is something that can be overlooked? I'll say this only once, apologize to my son." Seeing she couldn't talk her way out of it, the heavy-set woman dragged her son out to apologize. Reluctantly, the boy came forward and apologized. Then, unexpectedly, the woman reached out to touch Kotti, but Leela immediately shielded the child behind her and warned the woman, "I will not allow someone who strikes children to lay a hand on mine. I will leave this matter for my husband to handle." In Leela's eyes, the children weren't at fault. The fault lay with parents who didn't know how to teach their children to be good. "No one should raise a child so carelessly. That is why I will not forgive you." With that, she took the little one home, soothing Kotti the whole way in the carriage. She'd thought the deranged male lead of the novel would be the one doing the bullying, but in the end, Katie was still just a child. "I'm sorry, Mother should have stayed with you." Though the little one had just been crying, he didn't forget to boast to his mother that he'd gotten along with the other children, so Mother shouldn't leave him again. The words tugged at Leela's heart. Ever since arriving in this world, she'd worked hard to make up for the motherly love Kotti had been denied. Yet she could never understand why the original heroine had treated the child this way. In Leela's heart, Kotti was no longer the male lead of this world. She had come to see him completely as her own son. Just then, the little one pouted again in frustration. "I kept my promise to you. Don't I get even a little reward?" Teasingly, Leela pretended there was none, which made the little one pout all the harder. But when his mother said, "Of course there is. I'll grant you one wish," he instantly brightened. "Then I want Mother to read me a fairy tale every night." Leela was surprised. She never expected Katie's wish to be something so small. That boy said his mother reads to him every day. Only then did Leela understand the little one had been competing over mothers again. "I hope our Kotti has fun next time, too." By the time they returned to the ducal manor, it was already evening. The weather was gradually warming, perfect for going boating together to escape the heat. Kotti was delighted at the word together. But this together had better not include father. "I don't want to go with him, only the two of us, Mother." Still, Leela hadn't forgotten that only a harmonious family could raise a good child. "Mother will work hard for your sake." That night, back in her room, Leela finally had time to reflect on the day's events. She couldn't fathom why Madame Chatti harbored such hostility, even calling the Duke a barbarian. She guessed that perhaps the original heroine had been forced into the marriage, which was why she disliked both her husband and her child. Having crossed over with none of the original heroine's memories, only a few of her old habits, Leela found the whole thing rather strange no matter how she looked at it. So she asked her maid, "What does it mean to be called a barbarian in this empire?" But the question startled the maid badly. Leela had to explain that she'd heard it at the Countess's gathering. Madame Chatti's son said Kotti has barbarian blood, and that anyone who touches him will be cursed. Ever since that accident, there's so much I no longer remember. The maid never realized her lady had lost her memory during this time. No wonder she'd changed so much and been so kind to the young master. Leela also caught the worry in the maid's words, the fear that once she regained her memory, she'd revert to her old self. She firmly declared she would never change. Only now did she realize how important Kotti was to her. Still, the maid believed the Duke must not learn of this. If the Duke knew his wife had only become kind to him because she'd lost her memory, he would surely be devastated and shut his heart away. Still, the Duke would never hate you, my lady, otherwise he wouldn't have spent so much gold to marry you. Leela was shocked to hear this. She never imagined the original heroine had been sold off by her own father. She'd assumed the Duke had taken her by force. As it turned out, the Duke was the very one who had rescued the original heroine from a dark and cruel household. So she agreed with the maid's idea. To avoid raising suspicion, she would not ask about the matter herself, and would have the maid report back once she learned more. In the end, though, nothing came of it. Kotti was a child starved for love. Though he claimed not to care, deep down he had always longed for his mother's affection. The Duke, too, seemed cold, yet he had quietly looked after her where she couldn't see. Both were truly good people. What kind of memories could the original heroine have been hiding to treat them this way? A week later, summer arrived. The maid eagerly brought good news about the Chatty family. Madame Chatty was no longer a countess. Leela never expected things to unfold so quickly. The maid leaned in with even more sensational news. Madame Chatty had an affair with a guard, and the child at the party isn't Count Chatty's biological son either. So what the Marchioness had said at the party was true. No wonder Madame Chatty had fled in such a hurry. Still, they had brought it all upon themselves. She'd best go and check on her precious darling son. The maid told her Kotti was playing in the library, so she prepared some sweets and went to find him. But when she reached the library, it was unusually quiet. She called Katie's name, but no one answered. At last, she spotted her son asleep in a corner. She meant to wake Katie and move him to a bed, but when she touched his little face, it was burning hot and his skin looked flushed. Leela panicked at once. Unsure whether it was a fever or his fire magic, she could only scoop Katie up in a fluster and rush to find a doctor. The boy had made himself sick on purpose, just to feel what it was like to have his mother by his side. At the last gathering, the other child had boasted not only that his mother told him bedtime stories every night, but also that when he was sick, his mother would stay by his side the whole time, holding his hand. Kotti had never once experienced such a thing, and he, too, wanted his mother beside him when he was ill. Though that was what he felt inside, on the surface he'd mocked the boy for being so frail, insisting he wasn't weak like ordinary children, and certain that his own mother gave him more love. He never expected the magic inside him would truly run wild and make him ill. After examining him, the doctor found it was only temporary bodily pain, though the condition might persist for some time. Yet Leela remained anxious. Kotti's body now burned as hot as fire. The doctor explained that the fire magic within Kotti was growing, and his body had to adapt this way to the sudden change. He could only provide Kotti with some basic treatment. Even so, Leela was deeply worried. So she decided to stay by Kotti's side that night and care for him herself. Feverish, Kotti slept fitfully, whimpering, "I'm so hot. My head hurts so much." Leela's heart ached terribly as she watched the little one. In his daze, Katie opened his eyes and saw his mother. She never imagined the first time Kotti called her mother would be at a moment like this. Pitifully, the little one confessed that he hadn't really gotten along with the other children, and begged Leela not to hate him, promising to try harder from now on. Leela quickly held him close and comforted him. "Mother will never, ever hate you, Katie. I'm so glad you remembered your promise to me. From now on, you don't have to force yourself to get along with other children. Your happiness is what matters most, Kotti." A few minutes later, she finally managed to soothe the sniffling child. She tucked Katie under the covers, telling him to rest well so he'd recover quickly. "Once you're better, we'll go boating just as we promised. The two of us will surely have a wonderful time." But Kotti suddenly asked his mother to read him a storybook until he fell asleep. Though puzzled, Leela picked up a book, and so, lulled by Leela's reading, Kotti gradually drifted off. Then, to her dismay, a troublesome figure appeared. The Duke barged in, loudly demanding, "Leela, why aren't you asleep yet?" Leela quickly motioned for him to lower his voice, surprised the Duke was still awake at this hour. She figured he must have come out of concern for Katie, taking the time even after working late into the night. But he seemed to prefer hiding his feelings, so Leela told the Duke not to worry. She would stay here all night. This puzzled the Duke. The wife he used to know would never have done such a thing. Leela explained that she simply wanted to make some changes. "But you used to hate both me and Katie. That day the child cried, 'Why did you get so angry?' Even if it were genuine, you should have stayed composed. Then he suddenly asked to hold Leela's hand, and she extended it warily. But the Duke voiced his doubt again. You never used to let me touch you. Now you not only call me by name, you even let me hold your hand. Could it be you lost your memory after that accident? The homely Duke had finally realized his wife had lost her memories. The old Leela had always been cold and aloof, never gentle and warm like this. Leela never expected the secret she'd meant to bury would be uncovered after all. She feared the Duke would be hurt once he knew the truth. The Duke, meanwhile, thought that without all those past events, perhaps Leela would keep treating him kindly like this forever. He cherished Leela's smile so dearly, like a flower blooming in spring, along with the gentle sound of her voice calling his name. He hoped Leela would keep treating him this way until she regained her memory, even if it was only a fleeting spell of tenderness. Faced with her husband's heartfelt confession, Leela could barely breathe. His arms were holding her far too tightly. Still, she answered the Duke earnestly. If this is what you wish, then I will do it. I know you are a gentle and caring husband. Your coldness was born of fear that once I regained my memory, I would go on hating you as before, and forget everything that's happening now. The Duke was deeply moved. His wife understood everything in his heart. Hearing his wife promise that regaining her memory wouldn't make her forget his kindness, he finally felt a little more at ease. I'm so afraid all of this will suddenly vanish, that you'll stop speaking to me altogether. Then I truly wouldn't know what to do. Seeing the Duke like this, Leela couldn't help but laugh. He was a completely different man from the cold, venomous Duke she'd first met. Like this, he was utterly endearing. The Duke explained that back then, he hadn't known Leela had lost her memory. He'd thought she was merely toying with him. Only now did he realize that wasn't the case at all. Then he made another sudden, heartfelt confession. I will always look forward to your smile. Even when you were cold to me, I never stopped loving you. No matter how harshly you treated me before, your smile could still melt my heart. Leela was thoroughly flustered by the Duke's sudden closeness and confession. A handsome, wealthy man whispering sweet words right before her, who wouldn't be moved. Glad as she was that their bond had deepened, the position they were in was far too embarrassing, and besides, Kotti was sleeping right beside them. Stammering, she told the Duke not to lean in so close, only to be met with merciless teasing. Why has my wife started stammering, and her face is so red too? He even mischievously leaned in closer. Leela hurriedly stopped him. Didn't you come to see Kotti? I came to check on Kotti, but I was worried about you too. Pouting, Leela complained that the Duke had never said anything sweet before. Every time I came to your study, you turned me away, claiming you were swamped with work. The Duke patiently explained that he had actually longed to come to her, but knowing this happiness might vanish in an instant, he cherished it all the more. Deep down, he was terribly afraid, yet he couldn't bear to keep his distance. From now on, I won't run away. I will love you always. The Duke, so cold and commanding on the surface, was secretly battling his own son for affection. After his confession, he constantly wanted to be close to his wife. Leela never imagined the Duke could be so clingy. Just to stay here with her. He had dumped all his work onto his poor, beleaguered assistant. Ignoring his sleeping son nearby, he showered his wife with affection, until, fortunately, Katie stirred awake from his sleep. Lil quickly turned to check on the little one's condition. Bleary-eyed, Katie murmured, My head feels so dizzy. Leela fetched a damp cloth and laid it on his forehead. The little one didn't forget to take a jab at his father. If only Mother were here with me alone, I'd surely get better much faster. Hearing this, the Duke sensed trouble. Sure enough, the next second, Leela gently asked the Duke to leave first. To prove he was still of use here, the Duke tried to mention that he'd had the same condition as a child. Before he could finish, his son cut in with a whine. Mother, he's so noisy, my head is spinning. The Duke found it utterly absurd. He never imagined his son's acting could rival an Oscar winner's. Tucked in Leela's arms, the boy smirked at his father, while the Duke could only watch from the side, at risk of being driven out. He wanted to say something more, but Leela stopped him. Katie needs his rest, please leave for now. At that, the Duke had no choice but to leave dejectedly, while the victorious Kotti grew even more smug. The next morning, as soon as the sun rose, the servants the Duke had sent urged Leela to go back and sleep. After a short rest, she'd worked straight through until now, asking after Kotti's condition. Then she heard a knock, and her first thought, surprisingly, was that the Duke had come. Then she made herself snap out of it. A moment later, the maid came in with Kotti. Leela hadn't expected it to be her son, and hurried forward to check on his condition. The little one said that without his mother beside him, he felt very lonely. Leela was deeply gratified. Kotti had finally opened his heart to her. The little one tugged at his mother's skirt and asked if she was busy. "If it won't get in the way, I'd like to stay with you, mother." Leela worried the little one would grow bored while she handled her affairs. But Katie happily said it was fine, and ran to fetch a stool, placing it beside the desk. "I'll sit here quietly and wait. Once you're done, you can read me a fairy tale." And so it went, until rain began to fall outside the window. The maid remarked on how often it had been raining lately, and Leela remembered she still hadn't taken Kotti on their boating trip. It seemed she'd have to reschedule. Eating his cake nonchalantly, Katie said, "I wouldn't recommend it, but father is surely too busy to come anyway. He's always had so many official duties, and he doesn't like doing these sorts of things." No sooner had he finished than the man in question appeared before them both. Leela was startled by his sudden arrival. "Just as Kotti said, I am indeed very busy, but to me you will always come first. I will certainly make time to go with you." Kotti shifted his focus to the carriage. "Mother will ride in the same carriage with me, won't she?" Before Leela could even finish answering, the Duke added, "We're husband and wife. It's only right that we be together." The little one and the grown man used the carriage as an excuse to spar, leaving Leela caught and pulled between them. She had to get the two of them to coexist peacefully so that Katie could grow up in a warm family. Suddenly an idea came to mind. She stood up and told the two of them to stop bickering. "Both of you out of this room!" The words left them both terrified. Father and son had come to blows over her affection, and this childish behavior was finally met with Leela's judgment. "If you two keep arguing, then both of you can get out." After saying this, she turned her reproach on her husband. "Kiri, how can you, as a father, be so childish with a child?" The Duke tried to argue back, only to be met with an even sterner scolding from his wife. When she finished, she turned to Kotti. "You're at fault in this too. As his son, you mustn't speak to your father that way. Father wants to spend more time with you too, but he also has work he must finish as an adult. We should understand him." Kotti felt guilty at his mother's words, quickly admitting his mistake and promising never to behave that way again. But Leela had no intention of letting father and son off so easily. Her mischievous grin made them both sense danger. "Now the two of you must hold hands until you can get along peacefully." At this, both of their faces fell. Leela ignored their protests outright, and had the maid escort father and son to the hall. And so the two of them arrived in the hall, expressionless. To fulfill Leela's request, the Duke simply scooped his son up. It's easier to hold hands this way. Pouting, Kotti held out his hand to his father, then turned to tell the maid to report this scene faithfully to his mother. The Duke carried Katie through the manor, and this unusual sight set everyone whispering. The Duke felt awkward too. He hadn't realized just how many servants the manor had. Kotti grumbled all the while that this was all his father's fault. "If you'd just agreed to let me ride in the same carriage as mother, we wouldn't be in this mess." Faced with his son's complaints, the Duke merely turned his head away in embarrassment. He finally realized that Kotti was, after all, just a child of a few years, and that he'd treated him this way out of his own selfishness. No wonder his wife had been angry. But Kotti never expected his father to suddenly apologize. He stared at his father wide-eyed in disbelief, then bashfully turned his face away. "Either way, mother still likes me more." The Duke wasn't about to back down. "Even if Leela likes you more, I'm still her husband. Though the part about her liking you more is merely a misunderstanding on your part." The maid behind them took in the whole exchange. The two of them seemed to have grown closer. After circling the manor once, they returned to the room, to find that Leela had already fallen asleep slumped over the desk. Seeing this as a perfect chance to show off his prowess as a husband, the Duke decisively lifted Leela to carry her back to her room, only to find she was surprisingly light. Watching the couple, the maid couldn't help cheering them on. "My lady often worries that your grace isn't eating well. Why not join her for meals and look after her?" She even put on a heartfelt little performance. "My lady often has no appetite eating alone. She's long wanted to invite you but didn't know how to bring it up." "Oh dear, I've let the secret slip. That was my mistake." Hearing that his wife wanted to dine with him, the Duke was already overjoyed inside. He promised not to tell anyone. "But is this true?" "Of course, I would never lie to you, your grace." Satisfied with the answer, he prepared to carry his wife back to her room. But his son tugged at him again. "Mother took care of me all night. I want to be with her too. The Duke had already anticipated that his son wouldn't pass up the chance. And so the two of them carried Leela back to her room together. Gazing at the sleeping Leela, Kotti sighed. Mother really does look beautiful. And she's so good to me now. The Duke agreed with his son. In the past, she used to lose her temper with everyone. Now she's completely different. She even remembers my favorite flavor of cake. Especially when she reads, she's just like an angel. The Duke proudly seconded his son's words. This sudden praise made the already awake Leela blush with embarrassment. It was awkward, but the two of them seemed to be getting along well now. Should she open her eyes or keep pretending to sleep? In the end, she decided to keep feigning sleep. But after a long while, she heard not a single sound. Tentatively, she opened one eye to see what was going on, only to find father and son both watching her in knowing unison. Quite by accident, the woman had stumbled upon her husband's secret. From the Duke's words, it sounded as if he'd made her a promise long ago. The Duke explained, "It was back before we even knew we'd have a child." Leela never imagined her husband still wished to keep a promise made so long ago. "For you, I'd do anything." At her husband's sudden declaration, Leela flushed crimson to the ears. She tried hard to restrain herself, not to let her heart race every time she saw the Duke smile like that. Just then the pleasure boat arrived, and the Duke promptly lifted Katie aboard, then turned to take Leela's hand where she still stood on the shore. Once aboard, the little one happily patted the seat beside him, urging his mother to hurry over. "Isn't the scenery here lovely?" Indeed, as lovely as Kotti's eyes. Hearing this, Kotti looked at Leela in excitement, never realizing his mother found him so beautiful. Once all three were safely aboard, the boat set off toward the middle of the lake. The boatman warned that the boat would rock slightly. At once, Kotti clung to his mother. "The boat's rocking so hard, Mother, I'm scared." As Leela held her son, she felt as though something were missing from her hands. Then it dawned on her she'd forgotten the lunch she'd prepared. In a fluster, she wanted the boatman to turn back. Not knowing what had happened, the two of them grew nervous and asked what was wrong. "It's important. I can't let my husband and son go hungry." The Duke gave a helpless smile. "You're as clumsy as ever." Suddenly, an unfamiliar memory surfaced. She seemed to have heard those words before. They had met when they were very young. This memory must have belonged to the original heroine. Meanwhile, the Duke was still negotiating with the boatman. And when Leela looked up, she met the worried gazes of her husband and son. Still, she playfully turned her head away and pretended to be upset. "Do you know how nervous I was about this outing?" The Duke was about to apologize when he saw Leela holding Kotti and smiling, telling him to take them somewhere to eat something delicious. The Duke realized his wife had done it on purpose and gave a helpless laugh. "Then from now on, whatever my wife and son want, I'll buy it for them." Then he turned and told the boatman to head to the nearest town, Sandstone town. It was the first Leela had heard of a town here, and by the Duke's manner, he seemed quite familiar with it. A short while later, the three of them reached the town's dock, and after stepping off, the Duke took Katie's hand with an expressionless face. Seeing this, Leela felt a wave of relief. They would no longer follow the tragic ending of the original story, and father and son were growing closer by the day. Looking up, she saw two hands held out before her, one large and one small, both saying the very same words, "Take my hand." Leela had no choice but to walk between them, holding a hand of each. But in their splendid attire, the three of them stood out conspicuously in the town. She wanted to find a clothing shop and change first. Led by the Duke, the three arrived at a tailor's shop. To their surprise, the shopkeeper was not only very warm, but also recognized them. "I was just planning to call on the Duke. I'm so glad you've come." The Duke's manner left Leela quite astonished as well. Clearly, the two were on close terms, but how could that be? Leela busied herself looking at clothes, telling herself not to read too much into it. At first, the two merely chatted about how they'd been. But their final words left Leela utterly stunned. The woman found herself jealous of her husband over another man. Pretending to browse the clothes, Leela kept a close ear on their conversation. The two of them seemed like very close friends. The Duke was explaining the reason for their visit, that he wanted comfortable robes to cover their fine clothing. The shopkeeper immediately fetched some suitable robes. "My lady, would any of these do?" Leela was still wrestling with herself, telling herself the shopkeeper was merely an acquaintance of the Duke's, yet for some reason her heart wouldn't let it go. "Surely I'm not jealous of the two of them." Seeing the shifting expressions on Leela's face, the shopkeeper assumed she disliked his recommendations. After much hesitation, Leela finally voiced what was on her mind. "Are you and Kiri friends?" At this, the shopkeeper made a swooning expression. "Oh heavens, my lady called the Duke by his pet name." Then he grew serious. "The Duke and I are indeed good friends." Leela felt an instant unease. What does he mean by that? "My lady, don't you remember me? I was a member of the Duke's Order of Knights." Leela was dumbfounded. "You were once a knight?" "Yes. I found a new dream here, so I had to give up my knighthood. I'm sorry for breaking my vow to serve the Duke forever. My shop will always provide your clothing free of charge, and I'd be honored to help you and the young master pick it out myself." Leela was suddenly overcome with embarrassment. She could only change the subject by turning to the clothes. She'd never imagined things would turn out this way. Why had she gotten so anxious over this? In truth, the Duke's heart and eyes were full of nothing but Leela, though now and then a sudden memory would surface. She, too, kept wanting to draw closer to the Duke, as if part of the original heroine still lived within her. Just then, Katie, now in his robe, ran over briskly. "Mother, let's hurry and go eat. I'm hungry." Leela took off her hat and asked the shopkeeper to have it taken to the carriage. "I'm sorry for asking you such strange questions earlier. I think I'd misunderstood you." The shopkeeper was delighted and said it was nothing, glad to see the couple's relationship wasn't as terrible as the rumors claimed. Leela blushed and stammered out her thanks. Watching this, the shopkeeper felt even more reassured. It seemed the Duke could finally be with the girl he'd long secretly loved. A short while later, they arrived at a nearby restaurant, and Leela apologized for not giving Kotti the boat ride she'd promised. "This afternoon, because of Mother's carelessness, we had to get off the boat early." But Kotti didn't see it that way. "I had a wonderful time today. The breeze was fresh, and I loved it. But I also love talking with you like this, Mother. Next time we can come for the village festival or go on to the next village. Let's look forward to our next trip." Soon their food arrived. "Careful, you can blow on it before you eat." Kotti heeded his mother's advice and carefully blew on the food. But instead of eating it himself, he held it out to Leela. "Mother, say ah!" At this adorable, thoughtful gesture, she thought how truly precious Kotti was. She wished she had a camera, for food fed by her son tasted all the better. To her surprise, the next moment it was her turn to be called on. Feigning composure, the Duke asked Leela what she wanted. Seeing the spoon held out before him, he kept up an air of reluctance while inwardly bursting with joy. After dinner, the three of them boarded the carriage for the journey home. Worn out from a full day of play, Katie fell asleep the moment he got in. He'd been so excited about the trip that he hadn't slept a wink the night before. Leela gazed at the little one's sleeping face, as adorable as ever. "Thank you for arranging everything today. I hope we can find another chance to go out again." Blushing, the Duke looked at his weary wife. "Leela, there will be countless more days like this." As soon as they got home, a servant came to carry Kotti. But Leela declined. "I'd like to put Kotti to sleep together with the Duke." The assistant hastily said he hoped the Duke would put the young master to bed, since there was still a mountain of documents left unfinished. But before he could finish, a punch from the maid silenced him. Just then Kotti woke, and Leela told him to bathe before they all slept together. To her surprise, the little one flatly refused. "That's my room." To give his mother and father more time together, the boy decided to sleep alone that night. Kotti's decision took Leela completely by surprise. She thought the little one was angry with her, but it turned out he had a little secret with his father, having promised not to sleep with Mother tonight. Leela curiously asked the reason, but Katie refused to tell. "It's a secret between Father and me. I'm sorry, I can't tell you, Mother. And you don't need to read me a fairy tale tonight. You must be tired too." Leela gratefully patted the little one's head. "Our Kotti has truly grown up, thoughtful enough to worry about Mother." Then she curiously asked the Duke what sort of promise it was. As if they'd agreed on it beforehand, the two kept the matter shrouded in mystery. And so, contrary to Leela's expectations, instead of the three of them together, tonight it was unexpectedly just her and the Duke. No matter how curious she was now, he wouldn't reveal a thing. She guessed that perhaps Kotti wanted his parents to grow more affectionate. So she stepped forward and took the Duke's hand, only to find him trembling with nerves. Could the Duke still be afraid she might suddenly regain her memory? "I'd like to know what you thought of today's outing." Before the Duke could answer, another of the original heroine's memories surged in. The original heroine was wailing in despair. "I cannot love him. I don't deserve happiness." yet I can't suppress the urge to tell him I love him. Rather than this, it's better that you hate me. Only then did Leela realize something was amiss. The original heroine had apparently loved the Duke. But why then had she pushed him away so mercilessly? Something must have happened. Seeing the color drain from his wife's face, the Duke anxiously asked after her. You must be worn out from the carriage ride today. You should go to bed early so you can rest properly. Leela knew the Duke was still being cautious, afraid she might one day suddenly regain her memory. If their relationship were ever to truly heal, she had to learn the truth. Why is it that even though I was once so cruel to you, you still love me? Why do you love me so blindly? Honestly, I don't know. Perhaps it's your beautiful smile, or perhaps your sometimes clumsy charm. But I simply love you unconditionally. Would you believe it? Leela fell silent. Even though I never returned your feelings in equal measure? The Duke hadn't expected his wife to bring up such things so suddenly. Leela explained that this whole time had felt like a dream. You must still be worried that I'll regain my memory. Why not just tell me the truth? How did our relationship come to be like this? The Duke started to speak, then stopped himself. Perhaps it's selfish of me, but I don't want to tell you everything that happened. I want to keep seeing your radiant smile. Not wanting to miss this chance, Leela held on to the Duke, urging him to tell the truth. Why do you keep running from it? I know you would never hurt me. And even if you tried, I wouldn't allow it. Please stop avoiding it. Then Leela pressed her lips to the Duke's. Faced with such a forward wife, the Duke could no longer hold back the feelings in his heart, and he embraced Leela, deepening the kiss. Kotti once again met his good friend. After the Duke refused to tell her about the past, the servants of the manor, as if under some order, stayed tight-lipped about it as well. At her wits' end, Leela suddenly remembered the letter the Marchioness had sent last time. Judging from the last gathering, the Marchioness knew every rumor inside and out. Surely she knew something about their affairs too. With this in mind, she hurried off to discuss it with Kotti. Fenzel's son would like to invite you to play again. This time, the two of us will be the only guests. That way, you and your friend can play without anyone disturbing you. Kotti considered his mother's words. You're saying Fenzel's son wants to play with me? Leela answered, puzzled. Yes, that's what the letter I received said. At this, the corner of Kotti's mouth curled up. Then why not invite them to our home instead? This puzzled Leela even more. Yes, I'd like my friend to see my grand manor. Leela was thrilled to hear it. Kotti had actually said the word friend, which meant they'd broken free of the original story's tragic plot. Mother will write to Fenzel right away. Then I'd like to play with Radis alone. Soon the appointed day arrived. Katie looked forward to this meeting very much. Leela was gratified too, thinking her son had grown fond of this new friend. Be sure to play nicely today as well. All right, I promise. The maid came to announce that the Marchioness had arrived, and soon the pair walked in wearing matching mother and son outfits. Thank you for the invitation, my lady. We've both been looking forward to coming. Little Radis greeted them politely as well. Our Kotti has been waiting a long time for this day. The little one looked puzzled. Do you mean Kotti? Of course. Radis, I've been so eager to see you. Watching the two children, Leela was confused. Were these two really good friends? The next moment, Katie offered to show Radis around the ducal manor. Naturally, Leela was overjoyed that Kotti had made a friend. The Marchioness, too, reminded her son to get along well. And so the two little ones went off to play on their own. The mothers watched their children leave. The Marchioness complained that her son hadn't let her bring the image orb today. Otherwise, she'd have captured such an adorable sight. Then the two of them began a pleasant afternoon tea, and Leela made a point of serving her finest tea. The Marchioness took great interest in it, and was reminded of a friend of hers who, unfortunately, had been ill last time, and so couldn't attend. Leela was already preparing to pack some tea leaves for them before they left, when she heard the Marchioness say that this friend had pink hair and loved her own child dearly. This reminded Leela that the novel's heroine also had pink hair, and that her mother had long been tormented by illness. The heroine's misfortunes had begun with her mother's death. Is your friend's child 7 years old this year? Does she also have pink hair and clear eyes just like her mother? When the Marchioness confirmed it, Leela knew this was the heroine soon to appear, the very one Kotti would imprison. Just then the Marchioness posed a piercing question. How do you know all this, my lady? You've never met before. Leela froze, at a loss for how to explain. To spare her future daughter-in-law the fate of being imprisoned by her son, Leela decided to change the heroine's tragic childhood, but in her conversation with the Marchioness, she'd drawn suspicion. Leela quickly used the excuse that she'd looked into children of Kotti's age, hoping to dispel the Marchioness's doubts. To her surprise, the Marchioness actually believed her. So the difference in age between Kotti and my friend's daughter is... Leela knew this perfectly well. In the original story, the heroine's mother died when she was 8, and just 1 year after that, her tragic fate would begin. Afterward, the heroine's father, consumed by grief, fell into heavy drinking, and scheming people exploited this to saddle him with enormous debts, leading the family to ruin. For this reason, the heroine's father made a terrible decision. After her father's death, the heroine had no choice but to work in the ducal manor to pay off the debt, which was how Kotti came to fixate on her and imprison her. To keep this from happening, Leela resolved not to let the heroine's family fall apart. The only way now was to cure her mother's illness. The heroine's mother could be healed if treated early enough. In the novel, she had given up only because the treatment was too costly. But Leela, who knew the plot well, had another method, though she'd have to meet the woman first. So she asked the Marchioness if they could go visit her together. To her surprise, the Marchioness agreed. This way she could both speak with the heroine's mother and catch a glimpse of her future daughter-in-law. In the original story, the girl was a peerless beauty, so she must have been adorable as a child. She couldn't keep talking about the heroine forever. It was time to look into that other matter. The Marchioness could tell Leela seemed to have something on her mind, so she brought it up herself. "You look worried. Don't fret, whatever you wish to say, I'm willing to listen." Using the excuse that she rarely moved in social circles, Leela said she wanted to know what people were saying about her. "I used to always decline gatherings. I wonder if that caused a great many misunderstandings." The Marchioness quickly dismissed the idea. "They're all just jealous of you. There's nothing of the sort." This remark left Leela puzzled as well. Then the Marchioness recounted the moving, romantic love story of Leela and the Duke that circulated in society. "You've no idea how famous your love story is. The Duke fell for you at first sight when you were still a child. He even proposed and paid off your debts. And when you said you only wanted a quiet life, even the wedding was held on a small scale. Rumor has it you only ever showed your face before the Duke, which made everyone terribly curious." The Marchioness recounted it all with great animation. "You can't imagine how excited I was when you said you'd come to the birthday party." Leela felt deeply awkward hearing this. Such a romance novel of a tale. It was hard to reconcile with how the Duke and Kotti had first reacted. The rumors painted an entirely different picture. The Marchioness admitted that their love story was the one thing that was actually true and not mere rumor, and told Leela not to worry too much about it. It seemed she could glean no further information from the Marchioness. She could only rely on the original heroine's memories as they surfaced. Then the two of them turned the conversation to their sons, and Leela generously shared the journal she'd kept about Kotti. Just as the two were chatting about their children, there came a sudden knock at the door, and several servants who'd been with Kotti came in. "We've come to ask for your help, my lady." Hesitantly, they said the young master and the Marquise's son were... At this, the two mothers grew tense and urged the servants not to hold anything back. Only then did the servants reveal that the young masters were wrecking everything in their path. We couldn't stop them. Sensing trouble, Lil followed them at once to the scene. Scorch marks from flames were everywhere, and the ground was covered in the boys' scattered footprints. Leela immediately called out to Katie. Filthy from head to toe, the little one turned around in alarm. The two little ones had caused trouble again. By the time Leela arrived, the place was already in shambles, and Kotti looked up at his mother pitifully. Leela quickly steadied herself. Her son's expression was surely a plea for forgiveness. "But wrongdoing must be punished. Even if you look at me like that, I won't let you off. This is the family's training ground. Doing this could hurt the very people who protect us." "Mother, I was wrong. I only wanted to show Radis our training ground." Earlier, Katie had brought Radis here and told him how the knights trained every day. But Radis was unimpressed. "My family has even better knights." This remark annoyed Katie greatly. "I heard you can use fire magic, is that so?" "Yes, what of it?" "Then can you drive away this pouring rain?" Katie was instantly provoked by Radis's tone, and ignoring the servant's attempts to stop him, moved to use his magic. "If my mother finds out, she won't be pleased. So we'll keep it secret from her and none of you may tell her either." Radis kept goading him from the side. Your flames look like they'd go out the moment it rains. At once, Kotti made his flames blaze larger. Enough talk, watch closely then. At Kotti's command, the training ground was instantly swallowed by flames, and even the surrounding trees caught fire. The servants were terrified. Kotti looked at Radis smugly. Well? Radis applauded from the side. I'm guessing you have nothing to match me. But Radis merely smiled. What makes you think that? Watch carefully. Then he used his magic to sever a distant tree clean in two. Well, isn't my ability better than your little trick? Kotti refused to be outdone. If I wanted to, I could burn every tree here. I could do that too. And so the two little ones agreed to duel for the honor of their families. Hearing this, the servants rushed forward to stop them. Calm down, you mustn't fight. But little Kotti was past listening to reason. We're just playing, don't come any closer. Fearing something would go wrong, the servants hurried off to report it. After explaining himself, Kotti added quietly, I just didn't want to lose to the Marquise's son and bring shame on our family. Leela understood her son. It was all a matter of the children's pride. So she told Kotti to go change first so he wouldn't catch a cold. Over on the other side, the Marchioness was scolding her own son. Leela suggested Radis go change as well. But this time the Marchioness hadn't brought a change of clothes for her child. I'd be heartbroken if he caught a cold over this. The Marchioness was apologetic, but she couldn't let the child fall ill on her account. So she gladly accepted Leela's offer. And so both little ones were handed over to the maids. A short while later, the two came downstairs hand in fresh clothes. Leela was pleased. It seemed they'd made up. Yes, Your Grace, I'm very sorry for today. And Kotti, I apologize to you from the bottom of my heart. Seeing how sensible and polite Radis was, Leela turned to her son. Kotti, I trust you'll apologize too, won't you? Head bowed, the little one obediently apologized to the Marchioness, then abruptly changed his tone. Fenzel Radis, you really are the worst. The Duke was, yet again, eavesdropping on his wife, and so he decided to move up his plans for a second child. Kotti was thoroughly displeased with Radis, and what he said gave Leela a start. It's all right, Your Grace. I know he won't apologize to me. Leela was still trying to make sense of what Radis meant, when the next second she was floored again. How are these two suddenly chatting again? So when will you come play with me again? I'll come back once the rainy season is over. And they agreed to have a proper contest next time. Unlike Leela's bafflement, the Marchioness felt that boys were sure to grow closer after a few scuffles. Early the next morning, Kotti came to his mother carrying a book. I want you to read me this one today. Leela looked at the cover. It was a book called The Winter Witch. I know fairy tales are a bit childish for me, but I still want you to read it. If it's too thick, your throat will surely get sore. Leela was touched by how considerate the little one was, so she opened the book and began to tell the story. When winter blanketed the land in ice and snow, people would glimpse a witch in a certain place. She possessed great magic and could grant any wish. The witch could roam anywhere in the kingdom at will, and to relieve the tedium of her days, she began using human souls to grant wishes. And so many people were willing to wager everything for the ones they loved. This part of the story caught Leela's attention, and it sounded all too familiar. Before she could dwell on it, Kotti interrupted. Mother, what happens next? What became of them? To her surprise, Kotti unexpectedly enjoyed such obscure, difficult passages. No matter how steep the odds, the witch never lost. It was all a scheme of hers to collect human souls. The intense emotions held within those souls made the witch's magic all the more powerful. Mother, does that mean the stronger the emotion, the stronger the magic? Then I must be more powerful than Radis, because I love Mother so very much. Leela never expected the little one to be such a charmer. She quickly hugged her darling son. Mother loves you very, very much too, Kotti. I know Mother loves me. But what about Father? Does Mother love Father? The question made Leela blush at once. Image after image of the Duke's handsome face flashed through her mind, and her heart couldn't help but quicken. If this isn't love, then how else could it be explained? Yes, though Mother is afraid to admit it, she does love Father. Leela knew the Duke loved the original heroine, not her, yet even so, she had come to love him all the same. But the little one didn't understand what his mother meant. Why would you be afraid to love Father? Leela could only explain that she'd once treated him too harshly. In her past life, she had never imagined a life like this one. If you asked Father whether he loves Mother too, I think he would say yes. Just then the Duke's voice rang out. So you're reading our son a fairy tale? The Duke's sudden appearance startled Leela badly. Could you make some sound before you sneak up next time? Then, remembering what she'd just said, she flushed with embarrassment, wondering whether the Duke had overheard. From the Duke's face alone, there was no telling. I came to speak with Kotti about yesterday. Leela breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed he hadn't heard. But Katie already admitted his mistake, so don't scold him anymore. I've already considered it, but he still needs to be taught a lesson. Holding her son and blinking her big eyes, Leela tried to get the Duke to spare him. But he's only 6 years old. If father scolds you too harshly, you must tell mother. The little one paid it no mind at all, hopping forward to grab his father's hand. The Duke hadn't expected his son to take his hand of his own accord. So he scooped Katie up. But before we go, the Duke suddenly turned back to look at Leela. Before bed tonight, I'll give you the answer you wanted. See you tonight. Leela was now utterly dumbfounded. From his expression, he'd not only heard everything, but seemed determined to prove something, to act on it. The woman truly did have some sort of bargain with the witch. After reading her son the witch's story during the day, that very night Leela dreamed of her. The witch said how quickly time passes. The day of our promise is drawing near, do you remember? Leela woke with a start, wondering whether her conversation with the witch had been a dream. Seeing his wife jolt awake, the Duke knew she must have had another nightmare. Leela was puzzled by his use of the word another. Had she often had nightmares before? The Duke wanted to speak but hesitated. He wet a cloth and laid it on Leela's forehead. For now, you need to rest. But I want to know, will you tell me? Do these nightmares have something to do with my memory loss? The Duke could only share a few things from their childhood. They had first met as children, when Leela came to greet them holding the Duchess's hand, only to trip the next second out of sheer nervousness. The Duke couldn't help laughing, and was rewarded with a fierce glare from the young Leela. He'd thought it was just a single encounter, but in the days that followed, a little girl was always by his side. Though his private space was being intruded upon, he couldn't help growing fond of this clumsy, endearing girl. Every meeting drew him in further. That's all I can tell you for now. Leela pouted, displeased. It's always like this. Can't you tell me more? Years ago, I made you a promise that we would be as we were when we were children. I never thought I'd be the one to break it, only able to keep my word now that you've lost your memory. That's why I don't want you to remember. Leela wanted to ask more, but he stopped her. You should rest now. Don't be afraid. I'll stay by your side, and you won't have any more nightmares. However, after that night, a distance grew between the two of them. Even the maid noticed, and tearfully asked Leela whether she'd quarreled with the Duke. Why have you suddenly started sleeping in separate rooms? But her lady only grew more upset. Why not go ask the Duke about it? Ask him his reason for suddenly wanting separate rooms. Leela was deeply troubled. Without knowing the original heroine's past, she'd make no progress at all. After that day, the Duke moved to another room, claiming he had work that kept him up late into the night. Even his assistant couldn't catch sight of him, which made it clear he was deliberately hiding. As she pondered this, Katie suddenly ran in calling for his mother. Blinking his big eyes, he asked whether she'd quarreled with father. Is it because I did something bad? Leela hadn't expected the child to blame himself. She quickly comforted him. It's just that mother and father ran into a little trouble. Mother wanted to ask father about something he doesn't want to discuss. The little one clearly didn't understand. You quarreled over such a small thing? We didn't quarrel, we're just sorting out our thoughts. But you don't even sleep in the same room anymore. Leela held her son with an amused smile. He, who had once objected most to her being with father. To her surprise, the little one suddenly spread his hands and shook his head like an adult. Mother, you don't hate father, do you? You still want to get along with him, right? Leela was thrown by her son's unexpected question. Yes, that's true. Then Katie hopped down and snapped his fingers. Mother and I have finished talking. You may take over now. As Leela puzzled over this, two people suddenly entered. These are the young master's orders. Please forgive us, my lady. And with that, the two of them hoisted Leela up, one on each side. The little one stood by, watching it all. Mother, you taught me to be kind to my friends, so why are you quarreling with father? Leela already sensed what her son was up to. Kotti strode briskly over to open the door. Then I leave mother to you. Having received their orders, the two began carrying her out. No matter how Leela called, her son paid no heed. With their son's assistance, The young couple finally cleared up their misunderstanding. Kotti had the guards carry Leela straight to the Duke's study. Now the two of them sat face to face in extreme awkwardness. Leela did want to have it out with the Duke, but not under such awkward circumstances. The Duke was caught off guard too. His son had said he wanted to ask about his powers and insisted he wait in the study. But instead, what arrived was his wife, carried in by force. Clearly, he too had figured out Katie's scheme. That's right, our son suddenly had me carried here. Only then did the Duke sheepishly admit his fault, confessing that he had indeed been avoiding Leela. I knew you were doing it on purpose. Why? The Duke murmured awkwardly that it was because he didn't want her to regain her memory. When he'd spoken of their childhood, it was only because he couldn't bear to see Leela suffer nightmares, and the words had slipped out in a careless moment. But afterward, I regretted it. I know you'll regain your memory sooner or later, so I thought to keep my distance and delay it as long as I could. Leela was already moved by his words, though she still chided the Duke for not telling her the truth. But the Duke still feared these days were all an illusion, dreading that the future he imagined would come to pass. Leela suddenly gripped the Duke's hand, telling him not to be afraid. None of this was an illusion. Even if I regain my memory in the future, it won't change what I feel now. I'll do everything I can to tell you so. And without hesitation, she pressed her lips to the Duke's. The fact that I love you will never change. This made the Duke blame himself all the more, feeling he'd been terribly selfish. Leela also confessed that she didn't blame him, and that she wouldn't pry into the past anymore. She hoped the Duke would return to their room to sleep. The strangeness between the two had worried everyone, but now the couple had cleared up their misunderstanding. A month later, the day came to visit her future daughter-in-law. After confirming with the maid what to bring, she told her to look after Kotti, as she might not return until the next day. The Marchioness was already waiting at the gate. She was looking forward to the three of them discussing the children together. More importantly, she worried it would be awkward for Leela to meet Madame Finel alone, so she'd arranged for them to meet together this time. She even kindly invited Leela to call her by her name, Venice. Leela was overjoyed. This meant she'd grown a step closer to the male lead's mother, and Katie would surely have a bright future. Soon the two arrived at the home of Madame Finel, Leela. She too had been waiting in the parlor to receive them. I'm honored that the Duchess would come to see me as well. She brought out the tea Leela had given her. Venice told me this tea helps ease the pain. I've been taking such bitter medicine all this time. How wonderful to have tea instead. But is there something you wish to see me about, Your Grace? Put on the spot, Leela panicked, her mind racing for how to state her purpose. So she decided to use the same explanation she'd given the Marchioness. I heard your daughter is about the same age as my son, and that you love your child dearly. I thought we might surely become close friends as well. Madame Finel readily accepted this explanation. Just then, a little girl came running in, and Leela recognized at a glance that this was the heroine of the novel. She was even more adorable than the book had described. The little one looked curiously at the family's guests, and the next moment Leela's eyes met hers. At once the girl exclaimed, "What a beautiful lady!" Then, feeling she'd been rude, she carefully apologized. Leela was instantly melted by the little cutie, unable to fathom how her son could ever imprison such an adorable girl. She promptly introduced herself to her future daughter-in-law, and the little one politely greeted her in turn. Madame Finel wanted her daughter to go rest first, but Nia hasn't heard Mother's bedtime story yet. But the next second, Madame Finel suddenly broke into violent coughing, and then collapsed straight backward. The sudden turn of events threw both women into a panic. The Marchioness immediately sent for a doctor. It seemed Madame Finel's condition was already worse than they'd imagined. Fortunately, the doctor arrived quickly. Nia was deeply worried about her mother. It was the first time she'd seen her cough up blood. Leela patiently comforted her, telling her not to worry. Once your mother rests well, she'll get better. But inwardly she was anxious, eager to find a cure as soon as possible. Yet the situation now made a private talk difficult. She could only learn what she could from Nia first. The little one also wanted to stay with Leela a while longer. As it happened, the Marchioness wanted to go check on her friend as well. Nia said she could stay here with the Duchess, and sent all the maids to tend to her mother. And so only the two of them remained in the parlor. Leela wiped away the little one's tears, then confidently asked the child whether she believed fairies existed. Nia's eyes lit up at once. You mean the fairies from the legends who bring people good fortune? So Leela told Nia a beloved fairy tale. On a cold winter's day, a child got lost in the forest. She was terribly hungry, having gone all day without food. Luckily, she found a piece of bread beneath a tree. Just then, an old woman appeared and asked if the child would share her bread. The child looked at it, then broke off half to share. The old woman gave her a blessing in return. "You are a kind child. The fairy will give you a special gift." With that, she vanished, and in her place stood a young fairy. The child received the fairy's blessing and was soon reunited with her family. Once the child heard this story, explaining the rest would be far easier. As expected, children believed wholeheartedly in fairy tales. In that case, do you believe I'm a fairy who brings good fortune? Nia clearly hadn't imagined she could be so lucky. You have hair the color of a fairy's, and you're as beautiful as they are. That's why I believe you. She never expected even this little girl could be such a charmer. Then she made Nia promise that everything said today would be a secret. "Now I'll grant you a blessing of fortune. As long as you do exactly as I say, your mother will recover." Little Nia's eyes brimmed with admiration as she watched expectantly. Leela handed something to Nia. The little one looked at it in confusion. What is this? To safeguard her future daughter-in-law's freedom, Leela decided to help in advance. Nia gazed in puzzlement at the flowers in her hands, which seemed to have already withered. Leela explained that they hadn't withered. They'd simply grown poorly. "This is one of the gifts I brought today. You must mix it into the water while your mother bathes." The little one blinked her big eyes and asked, "Will that bring good fortune?" "That's right, but you must do exactly as I say. Don't forget there must be moonlight. Can you do this for me?" Nia quickly nodded, promising she'd do it perfectly. "Thank you so much, fairy." Gazing at the little dumpling in her arms, Leela found her impossibly adorable and hoped more and more that Nia would become her future daughter-in-law. Now that Kotti had been raised well, she could find a chance for the two to meet early, so that their relationship would have a good beginning. "Nia, come visit my home sometime." That night, Madame Finel sat dejectedly on her bed. She'd cherished the afternoon teas with the other ladies, but sadly her health had been failing more and more of late. She didn't know how much longer she had, and only wished she could live to see Nia grow up. As she mused, she heard a knock at the door, and then her daughter came running in. She asked her why she wasn't asleep yet. "I've come to keep my promise to the fairy." Madame Finel was utterly bewildered. Before she could grasp it, her daughter pulled her along. "Where are we going?" "You'll find out in just a moment, mother." Nia had already prepared the bathwater and led her mother to the bathroom. "Today, let's bathe with this, all right?" "We're bathing here because we can't see the moon from your bathroom, mother. The fairy said the moonlight must touch the water's surface." Madame Finel was thoroughly bewildered by her daughter's constant talk of a fairy. But seeing her daughter prepare so eagerly, for some reason she found herself wanting to play along with the little prank. So she climbed into the tub and held Nia close. Miraculously, the once withered flowers bloomed open one by one. Madame Finel noticed it too. The flowers hadn't reacted at all when Nia first came in. Nia picked up one of the blooming flowers and cried out in excitement. Everything the fairy said was true. Madame Finel grew curious about who this fairy her daughter spoke of could be. "Just like the fairy tales you tell me, mother, the fairy said that if we do as she says, you'll get better, and she'll bring us good fortune." Though Madame Finel didn't know who had told Nia all this, her body truly did feel much better, and her dizziness was gone. No medicine had ever worked like this before. She hadn't seen any new doctor or taken any different medicine lately, so why had she suddenly improved? Watching her excited daughter, she found herself half believing it. "Nia, are you sure it was the fairy who gave you this?" "Yes, she said if we keep it up every day for 100 days, good fortune will be with us forever." Madame Finel realized that fortune always being with them might mean her illness would be cured. Just then Nia exclaimed in delight, "These flowers look just like fairies dancing?" Madame Finel agreed, saying they looked like a fairy's hair, then suddenly thought of silver hair like a fairy's. Wasn't that the Duchess? Could she know how to cure this illness? Yet it was not unusual for a duchess to aid lesser nobles, though she didn't know why. But as long as her child could be happy. Then she remembered what Leela had said that afternoon, that it was rare to find a noble who cared so much for their child. Perhaps she understood just how dearly Madame Finel treasured her daughter. Nia seemed mischievous, yet her heart was utterly pure and kind. She hoped she'd have enough time left to stay by her side until she was fully grown. She had quietly endured and awaited her fate all this time, but in truth she didn't want to die at all. She loved her daughter so much. How could she bear to leave her behind? Seeing her mother cry, Nia hurried to comfort her. Madame Finel lifted her adorable daughter into her arms. From now on, I'll always be by your side. That very night, however, Leela returned home to find Kotti and the Duke still in the study, and she secretly listened to their conversation from outside the door. Katie said earnestly, "A dress the color of mother's eyes would be best." But the Duke disagreed. "Leela looks like a mermaid from the legends, so I think blue suits her best." Leela flushed at once. What on earth are these two talking about? She'd meant to eavesdrop, never expecting it to be so embarrassing. She decided to pretend she'd heard nothing and hurry back to her room. Just as Leela was about to slip away, a pair of little hands caught hold of her. "Mother, when did you get back?" Faced with his son's longing for a little brother, the Duke actually promised to keep his word. Caught eavesdropping, Leela had no choice but to awkwardly ask what father and son had been discussing. To her surprise, the two answered in perfect unison. "We were talking about you." This embarrassed Leela even more. How could they say it to her face like that? Flustered, she quickly changed the subject. "Kiri, have you finished your work? And Kotti, have you finished your lessons?" And once again, the two answered in unison, "All done." Just then, a servant came to remind Kotti it was time for his lessons. "But I want to stay with Mother a little longer." Only after Leela's coaxing did the little one reluctantly go off to study. Now only the young couple remained in the room. After Katie left, the Duke seemed lost in his own world, which made Leela suspect something was wrong. She walked over and asked, "Is something troubling you?" The Duke quickly shook his head and said no, but Leela could tell at a glance he was lying. "Then if I told you, would you comfort me?" "Of course, what kind of special comfort do you want?" In truth, Leela knew what troubled the Duke most was likely the fear that she'd regain her memory. "Now will you tell me who has disturbed your peace of mind? If you knew, would you scold that person?" "Of course, no one is allowed to ruin my husband's mood." "I mean it." The Duke caught his wife's hand and, blushing, praised how adorable Leela was. "If you keep tempting me, things could get dangerous. If I come to depend on you too much, you won't be able to escape me. I like you, so I want to close the distance between us as much as I can." Then he made to slip away. "I just got back from Madame Finel's and I'm a little tired. I hope you won't push yourself too hard. I'll go rest now." With that, she left the Duke standing there alone. The next day, the Duke recalled his conversation with Kotti from the day before. The little one had heard that if mother and father slept together, a little brother would come. But so much time had passed with no sign of one, so he'd come to demand when his father would fulfill his promise. "I'll keep working to maintain things as they are, but please keep your end of our promise. I want to see Mother happy always. Until then, I'll keep our family the way it is now." His son's words struck the Duke with sudden clarity. Their family was what mattered most. So he solemnly promised his son that he would surely see it done. "So when is our next family trip? I've even decided the color of Mother's dress." As the two of them were deep in animated discussion, Kotti spotted his mother hiding outside the door. The Duke hadn't expected his wife to appear just then. Fortunately, she'd only caught the latter half of the conversation and hadn't heard his promise to Katie. As he mused, the steward approached with a smile. "What has your grace thought of that made him smile?" "Lately my work has been flawless, yet I've never seen you smile. But every time your wife and son come here, you're so cruel to me." "Enough of that nonsense. We must finish today's work quickly so Leela won't grow suspicious." "But the letter from Count Owen, are you really going to deal with it without telling my lady?" The Duke's expression turned unusually grave. "I've told you already. Burn it at once, before Lil finds out." "But wasn't my lady a member of the Count's household before she married into yours?" The Duke was unmoved. "And what of it?" As the steward saw it, Leela had always been cold to the people of the manor, yet she'd received the Count warmly when he visited. "Your Grace, you wish to present a good image before my lady, so why deal with the Count's letters in secret?" But the Duke saw it differently from the steward. He knew his own wife. Their relationship isn't as good as it appears to you. The Count merely uses Leela as a tool for his family, and every visit is just another scheme to borrow money. The last person Leela saw before she lost her memory was him. Back then, there was nothing I could do. Things are different now. Whatever the cost, I will protect Leela. Now go fetch the documents I prepared. I have a special task for that man." Leela was finally about to draw near the truth of her lost memory. Rising early the next morning, she was told her husband had to go see the Emperor. She hadn't expected the Duke to leave before she even woke, and was lamenting that she'd missed her chance to say goodbye, when she suddenly found someone beside her. "I haven't left yet. I wouldn't go without seeing you." Leela was startled by the Duke's sudden appearance and his words. She chided her husband for always appearing out of nowhere, saying he should have woken her sooner. She'd nearly missed seeing him off. "You were sleeping so soundly, how could I bear to disturb you? So if I hadn't woken, would you have ignored the Emperor's summons?" "I'd like to, but wait a few days, I'll be back soon." Leela knew her husband had his duties. The first time she'd welcomed the Duke home from a campaign, he'd thought he was dreaming. "This time too, I'll be waiting for you to come home. Take care of yourself." After the Duke left, Leela lay alone in the great bed. Seeing this, the maid asked whether her lady felt lonely. "Yes, even though he just left, I already feel lonely." Just then, she suddenly remembered Madame Finel. As it happened, the maid had come about that very matter. Madame Finel had sent a letter. Only after reading it did Leela breathe a sigh of relief. Madame Finel had improved a great deal. And at the end, she'd made a point of thanking the fairy. Leela blushed at once. She hadn't expected Nia to tell her mother everything. How awkward their next meeting would be. But the future had changed because of it. Now Nia's fate wouldn't be so tragic. She still needed an excuse for the cure. She could hardly say she'd read about it in a novel. Lost in thought, she drifted off to sleep without realizing it. When she woke again, she found herself in darkness, surrounded by the sound of weeping. Puzzled, Leela moved forward and saw a girl crying. The moment the girl turned her head, Leela was struck speechless. It was herself as a child. "What has made you cry so bitterly?" For some reason, seeing the young Leela cry so sorrowfully, she felt an inexplicable grief too. "I think it's best you don't know, but do you truly want me to tell you? If you do, you'll remember it forever, and you won't be able to live happily as you do now." Leela didn't want to live in such uncertainty. "Only by knowing the truth can I truly mend things with the Duke. Please help me regain my memory." The young Leela grew even more sorrowful, demanding to know why Leela insisted on learning the truth. "Why can't you accept a chance at happiness for once? You'll only hurt the people who matter to you again." "I won't. No matter what happened in the past, I now know how precious the people around me are." The young Leela finally gave up trying to dissuade her, knowing that hiding it forever was no solution either. "I know how dear they've become to you now, so I'll teach you how to enter the memories. There was a despicable man in my life I never wanted to face again, our father, Count Owen." Leela rose groggily, recalling the original heroine's last words in the dream. The father was the key to unlocking the memories. As she pondered, Katie interrupted. "Mother, are you busy? I learned a new sword technique and want to show everyone." Once she agreed, Katie happily ran outside to wait while his mother got dressed. But afterward, the maid kept trying to stop Leela from going out. "Did something happen today? Or are you hiding something?" In the end, she couldn't get anything out of the maid. The moment she stepped outside, she heard a great commotion. Kotti pulled his mother to hurry down another path. Leela worried something had happened. With the Duke away, she had to find out what was going on. So she wanted to go look first before watching her son's performance, but Kotti found another excuse to get Leela to return to her room. The servants at the gate grew very tense when they saw Leela appear, and rushed forward to stop her from going any farther. Leela realized something was off. Their unified efforts to stop her had to be the Duke's doing, and she suspected there was someone outside she wasn't meant to see. The next moment, a man appeared before her. "It's been a long time, Leela." When danger drew near, Kotti's first instinct was to protect his mother. On the Duke's orders, the guards were keeping the Count from entering the residence. Seeing Leela, the Count demanded to know why he wasn't being let in. Leela knew he'd deliberately come while the Duke was away, but this was also her best chance to learn about the original heroine. The Count would surely speak of the heroine's past without reservation, so she had the guards let him in. "The Duke is away, and as mistress of this house, I have the authority to decide." I won't say it again, let him in. Only then did the guards admit him. Shamelessly, the Count asked why Leela received her father this way. "I can't believe you'd let them treat me like this. We're family." Not wanting to say much, Leela simply had the maid show him to the meeting room. For the very moment she'd laid eyes on the Count, she'd felt utterly sickened, which made one wonder just what kind of man this father was to provoke such a reaction. Little Kotti noticed his mother's expression too, and anxiously begged her not to make such a face. It frightened him. You always used to have that look on your face. I'm sorry, Kotti. Mother just felt a little strange. I promise I won't make that frightening face again. Every time I see you, I want to smile. Having such a sweet, gentle child makes me so happy. Don't worry, Mother won't go back to that old expression. Leela understood the unease in Kotti's heart, his fear that his mother might become as she once was. Now Mother has to receive a guest. Go wait for me in your room. But the little one firmly insisted on going with her. I promised Father I'd protect Mother's smile. With Father away, I'll protect you. If that man hurts you, I'll burn him to ashes. Leela was touched that her son would protect her so. Mother thinks she can handle him, but you must promise to control yourself. Little Kotti obediently agreed. After entering the meeting room, Leela lifted her son onto the sofa. Then came the father's sneer again. The two of you look so close now. You used to look at him so coldly. Perhaps because he shares my blood, do you intend to raise that lowly child of yours? Leela hadn't expected the Count to speak this way in front of the child, and angrily cut him off at once. Beside her, Kotti silently summoned his flames. I see you haven't disciplined him properly. Does he mean to burn his own grandfather alive? Kotti stood up to the Count without the slightest deference. If you dare hurt Mother, I'll do the same to you. I won't forgive you, grandfather. Leela quickly had Kotti withdraw his flames. The Count added fuel to the fire. Don't you want to know why I say you're as lowly as your mother? Why not have him leave? I believe we still have matters to discuss. Kotti immediately declared he wouldn't go. I won't leave Mother alone with a man like you. Leela knew the Count was a vile man. If she let Kotti stay, there was no telling what else the Count might say. The last thing she wanted was for Kotti to be hurt. Kotti, can you trust Mother? Rather than be a mother protected by her son, I'd rather be a mother who can overcome difficulties herself. Could you leave the room and let Mother speak with your grandfather alone? Kotti was deeply reluctant, but hearing his mother say this, he could only head out, telling his mother to call him at any moment if anything happened. The moment Kotti left, the Count's laughter sounded behind her. I see you've tamed them quite well. Now both the Duke and his son are in the palm of your hand. Now that the nuisance is gone, let's get straight to the point. I need some business capital. The words gave Leela a headache, as if the same thing had happened countless times before, and then another of the original heroine's memories surged in. The Duke amassed quite a fortune from this campaign. If I give you to him, I can exchange you for the funds to pay my debts. Even though the original heroine resisted with all her might, the Count paid no heed at all, even resorting to force. As far as I know, none of the ventures you invested in ever turned a profit. Surely you know that yourself. That alone should account for everything you've done to me. The Count hadn't expected Leela to refuse his demand, which only made him angrier. You're nothing but the child of a lowly servant. Shouldn't you be grateful I gave you a noble's life? The original heroine's origins were something Leela had never imagined. A memory surged in along with it. Her mother had the very same hair color as she did. What had been a happy life was suddenly shattered. The Count sent soldiers to seize the original heroine, and no matter how her mother wept and screamed, nothing could change the fact that she was being taken away. Leela's true origins were finally revealed. She was not the Count's real daughter. She'd been seized for the color of her eyes. The young Leela was thus taken to the Count's manor, not even allowed to keep her own name, forced to play the part of an illegitimate daughter merely because she was beautiful, and so she became the Leela everyone knew. Her mother, too, came to work at the Count's manor as a nursemaid, and in rare idle moments she could still play with her mother. But the two of them still had to be careful and discreet. Her mother feared being discovered by the Countess, while the young Leela believed the Countess didn't like her, and so wouldn't pay her much attention. How could the Countess not like you? You're so beautiful and lovely. The young Leela knew that in the Count's manor, only her mother would think this way. But that wasn't the case at all. The next day, she was summoned before the Countess. The young Leela had a bad feeling, hurriedly wondering if she'd made any mistakes in her recent lessons, for the Countess had never summoned her before. Don't be so afraid. I just felt I'd been too cold to you before, and now I'd like to look after you more. Is there anything troubling you lately? The young Leela didn't know why the Countess was asking this. I've noticed you've been enjoying playing with the nursemaid lately. Why do you prefer the nursemaid's company over your mother's? The young Leela was terrified to hear this. Time with her real mother was her only relief, but she didn't dare say so. The Countess continued, "If you don't enjoy going out with me, then get out of my sight." The young Leela still thought the Countess couldn't be too angry, but her manner truly was a little strange. That very night, her mother came to the young Leela's room. Gazing at her daughter's sleeping face, she wept. "I'm sorry. Mother promised to protect you." Then she placed a pendant in Leela's hand. "I'm afraid I can't keep that promise anymore." The next morning, the young Leela woke to find the pendant her mother had left behind. As if suddenly sensing something, she began calling for the nursemaid. As feared, the nursemaid had already been replaced. With tears in her voice, she demanded to know where the nursemaid had gone. "I think you should eat breakfast first. My lady wouldn't like to see you in such a state." The young Lil knew the Countess must have done something. She quickly wiped her tears and went to see her. She had to beg the Countess's forgiveness now. The moment she reached the hall, she dropped to her knees before the Countess. "It's all my fault. Please give her back to me." "And what have I taken from you? Do you want to see your mother that badly?" "I heard the northern ducal house needed servants, so I sent her there." "Don't be so sad. I plan to visit where she works this summer. Would you like to come with me?" The Count added from the side, "We could take the chance to visit the ducal manor. The Duke's son is still a little boy. I expect you to catch his eye, to use that face of yours to lure him in. Consider it repayment for our raising you." The memory ended, and the Count was still talking to himself. "If you don't want your husband to know your lowly origins..." Leela countered that the Duke wouldn't care about such things. "And what if you knew he was the son of the very man who killed your mother?" The boy, learning his mother was upset, rushed over at once to comfort her, even bringing his favorite toy bear to cheer her up. Meanwhile, the father was still threatening Leela with her mother's grave. "You'd best obey my orders. If I were to disturb your mother's grave because of this, I imagine she'd be quite heartbroken." Leela never imagined the Count could be so vile. She realized that perhaps he'd threatened the original heroine this way before, and that was what had led to her tragic end. But she was different now. She would no longer be cowed by the Count's few words of threat. And she bluntly ordered him to leave the ducal manor. Hearing this, the guards quickly came in and seized the still cursing Count then and there. Little Kotti rushed in anxiously to check on his mother. At bedtime, he made a point of bringing his doll. "Mother, are you all right? I brought my favorite bear just to cheer you up." Leela was touched that the little one came to comfort her even at a time like this. "Can I sleep with you until father comes home?" Leela agreed to her son's request, for it had been a long time since they'd slept together like this. Watching her son's obedient face and thinking of how cold she'd once been to him, of how hurt the child must have felt, she asked, "Katie, do you hate mother?" Hearing this, the little one lowered his head and fell silent for a moment. "I did so many things before, but you never once gave me a hug." "Then it seems I really was a terrible mother. But even though mother was cold, I still loved you anyway. Back then I used to think, if only you would smile at me. Then all of a sudden, mother started smiling at me. At first I was angry at the change, you were suddenly so kind to me. But later I wasn't angry anymore, because I truly, truly love you, mother. And I still love you now." Leela held her adorable son close. In truth, while talking with the Count earlier, she had remembered everything. She had even seen the Winter Witch. At the time, she'd held her mother's only keepsake, and begged the witch to let her go back and see her mother. The witch refused, but offered Leela 10 years' time instead. At the time, she believed that without her mother, having time to live held no meaning at all. But the witch only laughed. She thought Leela was lying, and wished to make a wager with her. "If you're so confident, then surely you won't lose. I'll give you a new life at no cost whatsoever. A life where you won't dwell in sorrow and pain, a peaceful life where you are loved. What do you say?" Her thoughts returning to the present, Leela looked at the son in her arms. She remembered how every day used to be so painful she could hardly bear it, which was why she'd wondered whether things could change, whether she could return to her mother's side. "But I can't do that, for only then will your future not turn out so tragic." She'd once thought the torn wings in the novel referred to the heroine imprisoned in the ducal manor. But that wasn't so. The one whose wings were truly torn away was Kotti, and the one who'd set it all in motion was none other than herself. At the same time, Leela realized she hadn't been reincarnated into the original heroine's body at all. She had been Leela from the very beginning. The Winter Witch had merely altered things with magic. Now that she'd remembered it all, it was time to settle the wager with the witch. Leela knew she would never live as she once had again. Two adorable boys had been waiting for her, loving her all along. From now on, I'll show them just how much I love them. Even the blunt husband had a romantic side. After settling matters on the battlefield, the Duke's first thought was to hurry home, fearing Leela might come to harm because of the Count. But the clever knights advised the Duke not to rush back. "If you come all this way with no gift, my lady will surely be disappointed." Only then did the Duke remember, and he hurried off to a nearby market. A short while later, he returned under everyone's gaze, having bought a bulging sack of jewels, yet he still felt none of it suited Leela. The knights grew worried their blunt commander would return empty-handed. Just then, the Duke noticed a flower stall by the roadside, and bought up every purple hydrangea on display. Then he led everyone homeward without a moment's delay. Still, his heart was uneasy, afraid Leela had already regained her memory and reverted to her old self, and would never welcome him as she had last time. But reality proved otherwise. His wife and son were waiting at the gate, early as ever. Seeing her husband return, Leela stepped forward at once to tell him how she'd missed him. The little one ran over to welcome his father, too. "Did you protect Mother well while I was away?" For a moment, Kotti didn't know how to explain. Leela quickly came to his aid. "Of course he did. He was like a shining knight. Protecting Mother so well the whole time, isn't that right? And Kiri, what are you holding in your hand?" Blushing, the Duke said it was a gift for Leela. "They made me think of you." After they returned, the maid arranged all the flowers in a vase. Looking at the flowers, Leela suddenly grew melancholy. She asked the maid, "If you found yourself in a twisted relationship, one that was neither your fault nor your partner's, what would you do? If it were you, how would you handle it?" "I suppose it depends on the situation. If it were a problem that could be solved, I'd do my utmost. If it couldn't, I would cut it away." Leela felt there was sense in the maid's words, but she still preferred to resolve the matter. Just then, the maid seemed to guess something and asked whether Leela had regained her memory. Leela had no intention of hiding it and said plainly that she'd remembered everything after the Count's visit. In response, she felt a rage from the maid unlike any she'd seen before. "That wicked Count came all this way just to torment you, my lady. That's why your memory came back. I must go fetch the holy water at once. I'll be sure to cleanse away the evil energy that vile Count left behind." Leela was taken aback by the maid's state. "Why aren't you worried about me regaining my memory? Instead, you're angrier at my father." At this question, the maid grew even more indignant. "Of course. I can't imagine how many cruel things he said to make your memory return. It must have been a terrible blow to you, my lady. I did worry that regaining your memory would turn you back into your old self, but your eyes used to be empty and cold, and now they're full of warmth and love. Just as you said before, even with your memory back, you haven't changed. Now then, I'm off to give the manor a deep cleaning." Leela watched helplessly as the maid hurried off. Looking at the flowers before her, she thought of the Duke again. Perhaps it was because they'd been apart so long, but he seemed even more handsome than before. That night, after putting Katie to sleep, she prepared to return to her room to wait for the Duke, only to find him already sitting on the great bed. "I've only just returned from the battlefield. No matter how strong, a man can't work without end." He pulled his wife close and offered her a kiss. "I thought of you every day. My greatest longing was to see you again." Leela quickly told the Duke to stop with the embarrassing sweet talk. "But in this lovely moment, there's something important I want to tell you. And that is, I've remembered everything." The young couple finally opened their hearts to each other. Leela confessed to her husband that she'd regained her memory. The Duke, having heard the servant's report during the day, had a faint suspicion already. He asked what she and the Count had discussed. He came for money. The Duke hadn't expected the Count to come begging for money yet again. "From now on, I won't let him bully you anymore. I can't bear to see you suffer because of him. If I'm given the chance to act..." Leela could feel her husband's hands trembling as he spoke. "I'm sorry. I don't want to see you hate me as you once did." Understandingly, Leela took the Duke's hand. "Look, is there any hatred in my eyes as I look at you now? Or can't you see the way my eyes shine when I gaze at you? Then let me tell you, even though I've remembered everything, I'll still show you my gentle side. What do you think? Can you believe me now?" Only after his wife made her feelings clear did the Duke feel reassured enough to beg her forgiveness. "You learned I'm the son of the man who killed your mother, yet I still forced you to be with me. Can you forgive me?" The Duke's words stirred up another of Leela's childhood memories. The Countess had promised the young Leela a visit to the ducal manor, where she might see her mother, who served there as a maid. "But if you embarrass me, there will be no such chance. Stay in your room until tomorrow and no meals for you." The young Lil hadn't expected to go hungry again that day, but the chance to visit the ducal manor was comfort enough. The next day, the Countess took the young Lil to the ducal manor. It was also the first time Leela met the young Duke. The two ladies wished to talk, so they sent the children off. The young Leela was overjoyed. This meant she could go find her mother. But this was the ducal manor after all, and she had no idea where her mother was. So she swallowed her pride and asked the young Duke beside her whether he'd heard of a maid named Sina. "I am very curious where she works." The young Duke knew the woman, but had no intention of telling Leela directly. "I cannot lightly share any private information about the ducal manor with anyone." But this didn't stump Leela in the least. "Then you don't have to tell me, just give me a tour instead." The young Duke hadn't thought of that, and could only resign himself to playing tour guide for her. But a few days later, the girl came again. "Last time we went to the lake in the back garden, it was so big. Today, let's go see the other side." And so it went, several times over. Each time, the young Duke patiently strolled about with Leela. In the end, it was Leela who lost her patience, wanting him to just tell her where her mother was. The young Duke couldn't understand why Leela was so set on seeing a single maid. Leela didn't know how to explain. She could hardly say it was her own mother. "She used to be my nursemaid at my home, so we're very close." Hearing this, the young Duke finally relented. "It's the maid's rest hour now. She should be nearby." But Leela was so excited that she took a great tumble, earning her the young Duke's merciless laughter, though he still helped wipe the dirt from her dress. "It's all right, just be more careful next time." And so Leela followed the young Duke to the maid's rest area, and at last saw her mother busy at work in a room. Sina was shocked to see her daughter, and frantically tried to hide the wounds on her body. The young woman had finally eased her husband's anxiety. Their childhood days had always weighed on the Duke's heart. At the young Leela's persistent request, the young Duke had relented and taken her to see her mother. But what Leela didn't know was that her mother's body was already covered in wounds. So as not to worry her daughter, Sina claimed she had work to do and sent Leela away. But from then on, the young Leela frequently went to the ducal manor to see her mother, and eventually discovered her mother's injuries. In her panic, the only thing she could think to do was beg the Duchess for help. But all she got in return was a cold reply. "That maid belongs to the ducal house now, which means she belongs to me. Why should I call a doctor for a lowly servant?" But what drove Leela to even greater despair was that the wounds on her mother's body had all been inflicted by the Duchess herself. Only then did Leela realize what the Countess had been hiding from her. Her sole aim had been to make Leela watch her own mother slowly die. The Duke had known all of this for a long time. As she dwelled on it, tears fell of their own accord. The Duke hastily wiped away his wife's tears and apologized. Leela motioned for the Duke to sit beside her. "I've suddenly remembered so much from my childhood. Do you know what my first impression of you was? Probably a stern, cold air of the ducal house. Honestly, the first time I met you, I thought you were quite unfriendly, and you kept refusing to tell me where my mother was. But being with you was so much fun. Every day I'd make excuses to wander the manor with you, and reading together was delightful too. I've liked you since we were children." The Duke couldn't wait to share his feelings too. "Back then, every time you smiled at me, my heart would race. Yet I kept refusing to tell you where the maid was, even knowing she suffered my mother's wrath and torment. I deeply regret the judgment I made as a child. Perhaps if I'd told you sooner, we could have saved her. In the end, I caused you to become a child without a mother." Leela tried to console her husband. She knew that the Duke, just a child then, had no power to protect the maid. He'd even been beaten by the Duchess for trying. Now all those who were truly to blame are far away from us. I shouldn't have blamed you for it either. I'm sorry I was so harsh with you before. And you needn't apologize to me anymore. I've loved you all this time." Then Leela drew her husband close and gave him a comforting kiss. To be a good big brother, Kotti could only talk quietly to his doll. "I told you I want to go see Mother. Why won't you let me?" "Mother always used to come see me even when she was sick. Something must have happened." Holding his doll with a worried face, the little one wondered, could Mother be unhappy that Father came home? Then he dismissed the idea himself. Just then there was a knock at the door. Thinking it was his mother, Kotti dashed out in excitement, only to find it was his mother's maid. His happy little face fell at once. "Oh, it's you, Daisy. I wasn't looking for you." The maid explained she'd come to see whether Kotti had gone to sleep. "I can manage on my own. You may go." The maid could tell the little one was sulking because he hadn't seen his mother. She hadn't expected Katie to lie with such a straight face. "Young master, may I tell you a secret? And this is something I'll tell only you. My lady is preparing a wonderful gift for you." Little Kotti was instantly intrigued, his mind racing over what his mother might be preparing. The maid deliberately kept him in suspense. "But I'll tell you this much, young master. My lady wants to give you a little brother." The little one couldn't believe it and kept asking if it was true. He remembered promising his father that for the sake of a little brother or sister, he could sleep apart from his mother. "Then can I go see mother now?" The maid quickly spun a tale. The birth of a baby requires a special bird to deliver it. When a couple gets along well, that bird comes to visit them. But the bird isn't easily persuaded to bring a child, so to make sure it keeps coming, that special bird is very sensitive. It only comes at the right hour of night and stays until morning. If the bird is frightened off, they won't have a child. Under the spell of the maid's story, Kotti naively believed it. "I promised father I wanted a little brother, and now I know mother isn't staying away because she dislikes me. So I can hold out for a little while. After all, I'm going to be a big brother in the end." So the maid took the eager-faced Katie off to bed. The next day, Leela felt achy all over. She didn't notice the Duke gliding up silently behind her, and was once again given a real fright. "I came because I was worried you weren't feeling well." "But aren't you busy today?" "Nothing is more important to me than you." "But I'd like to know, what did the Count say to you that day?" "He said that if I didn't give him funds, he'd tell you I was born a commoner. But you already know my past. I told you when we were children, Sina wasn't my nursemaid. She was my mother." The Duke hadn't expected the Count to use this to threaten Leela. "I had no choice. He even threatened to tear up my mother's grave. From the very start, when I meant to refuse him, he kept using this to threaten me. For a long time, I wanted nothing more than to be rid of him. Before I married, I often suffered the Count's abuse. Most of the time, he starved me, and sometimes he even struck me." Hearing this, the Duke pulled his wife into a pained embrace. "It was for this very reason that I began to blame everything on you. So much had happened to my family, yet you came too late. I hated you for it. I'm so sorry I hurt you then. Now I hope you and Kotti can forgive me." The Duke quickly comforted his wife, saying everything was fine now, and everyone who loved her was by her side. "But there's still one more thing I want to tell you. I know where your mother is buried." As it turned out, the Duke and Leela were each other's salvation. The Duke had long regretted failing to look after Sina as a child, so afterward he'd given her a proper burial. Leela never imagined her mother, a mere maid, had been treated with such respect, and she realized the Count had been deceiving her all along. "Next time we have the chance, let's go visit her together." The Duke had long worried his wife wouldn't believe this, so he'd kept watch over the grave alone in silence. Leela was deeply moved by her husband's quiet devotion. Back then, he too had been only a child. As a young boy, the Duke had often been beaten and berated by his mother, and to him, Leela's appearance had been like a ray of light. From then on, he never felt lonely again. His wife had saved that miserable, solitary childhood of his. Meanwhile, things were not going well for the Count. His nephew barged straight into his home. The Count angrily tried to drive him out, but to no avail. "I've told you, I'm not after your title as Count. I've been paid by the Duke to take good care of you." Then he summoned guards to bind the Count. "This is the price of your long years of greed and taking advantage of others. Don't worry, I'll dump your body deep in the forest and make it look like a carriage accident." The Count never imagined this would be his final end. A few days later, Leela had fully recovered her health. Upon hearing this, the maid excitedly produced a letter. "It's from Madame Finel. Would you like to read it yourself?" Leela eagerly opened the letter. Madame Finel had long been hoping to share tea with her once Leela was feeling better. But after reading it, Leela's face turned serious. "I think we have something important to prepare for. The manor is about to welcome a very adorable child." The maid immediately guessed it was Madame Finel's daughter. Leela kept telling the maid how adorable the child was. "We must make thorough preparations to welcome them." The maid excitedly promised to serve the finest pastries and tea. But she had one question. Why did both Madame Finel and the child call her Lady Fairy in the letter? Leela was quite embarrassed. Yet as a child, she too had always wished for a fairy to come and save her, a wish that had never come true. She was glad she could fulfill that wish for the young Nia. Though fairies aren't real, there are still people who, like fairies, don't wish to see others suffer. Leela gazed quietly at the sky beyond the window. Mother, I miss you so much, but it will be a long time before we meet again. I must first care for my child and my husband. They are the ones I love most, so Mother, you'll have to wait for me a while longer. Little Kotti was finally about to meet his future wife. As the doting mother, Leela could hardly contain her anticipation. Bright and early, she dressed her son up and told him 2 very important guests would be arriving soon. In her mind, Leela could already picture the 2 little ones meeting. She wondered whether Kotti would fall for Nia at first sight. Though their meeting in the original story had not been a happy one, much had changed this time. Soon a little girl about your age will arrive, Katie. Can you take good care of her? At the word girl, the little one's face filled with dread. He muttered under his breath, "Girls are all such a bother." Leela once again made her son promise to be nice to Nia. Kotti obediently hooked his finger with his mother's. After all, he'd never once broken a promise to her. Knowing how well-behaved her son was, Leela promised to make his favorite walnut pie once the visit was over. The little one's eyes lit up at once, and he promised he'd absolutely manage it. Soon Madame Finel's carriage rolled into the manor. Nia stepped down from the carriage holding her mother's hand. Watching this, mistress and maid both inwardly squealed. The girl was dressed up like a little cake and was simply too adorable. The moment Nia saw her, she cried out, "Lady Fairy!" At this title, the servants behind them began to wonder, was she saying their lady was as beautiful as a fairy? "It's been so long, Lady Fairy. I've wanted to visit you for ages." Each cry of fairy left Leela both basking in it and deeply embarrassed. After some hesitation, she finally asked the child to stop calling her fairy. Nia quickly covered her mouth, explaining she hadn't meant to give away the fairy's identity. She was afraid her good fortune would be taken back by the fairy. Leela was instantly charmed. Children really were so pure and innocent. Just as she was about to answer, Katie stepped in to shield her. "Please keep your distance from my mother." "She's not your fairy, she's my mother. Please don't trouble her." The heartwarming scene Leela had imagined turned out entirely differently. Still, Madame Finel's complexion was much better than last time. "Yes, and it's all thanks to you, Your Grace." Then she taught her daughter to greet people politely before speaking. The sensible girl took her mother's words to heart at once. Not only that, but Nia immediately apologized to Kotti. "I understand how you feel, young Duke. Can you forgive me?" "You already apologized to my mother, so it's fine. I promised Mother I'd take care of you, yet I frightened you instead." Nia brightened at this and grabbed the boy's hand. "I'm so glad you're the second friend my age I've made. We're going to have so much fun today." Katie outwardly disliked having his hand grabbed by the girl, yet he never pulled it away. Leela saw through her son's heart and suggested he show Nia around the ducal manor. So the 2 little ones exchanged names, and Katie even allowed the girl to call him by his pet name. Watching their retreating figures, Leela knew her son surely liked Nia. Now only the 2 ladies remained. Madame Finel had many questions she wanted to ask Leela, so the 2 of them went to the parlor. "Before I ask, I'd like to thank you in person, for you are not merely a duchess, but a kind fairy as well." Katie had already been completely captivated by his little bride-to-be, even growing jealous over who her favorite person was. Meanwhile, Madame Finel kept expressing her gratitude to Leela. Her dream was to see Nia grow into adulthood, yet she'd watched her health worsen by the day. Thanks to the flowers Leela had sent, she was still able to take her daughter out like this. Leela thought of how this family had ended in her past life, and knew Madame Finel was someone who loved her child dearly too. I believe anyone else who knew of this would have helped as well. But this puzzled Madame Finel. To outsiders, she merely seemed frail, and few people knew the true nature of her illness. How had Leela known? In the novel, Nia had contracted the same illness as her mother, and Kotti had crossed the entire continent to find her a cure. But she couldn't reveal that, so she made up an excuse on the spot. "From the look of you, you don't seem naturally frail, but rather as if you have some illness. I happen to hear that moonlight flowers can draw the toxins out of the body." Hearing this, Madame Finel was all the more grateful. "You've given me hope to live again. Now I can watch my daughter grow and eat the foods I love." Just as the mothers were dreaming of the future, the 2 little ones had already reached the garden. Chatterbox Nia trailed behind, prattling away, and her endless questions wore on Kotti a little. Still, he led Nia to his secret base for eating sweets. The servants behind them had made ample preparations as well, and the moment the two sat down, they served tea, pastries, and cake. The young master has already won Lady Nia's heart. Faced with a crowd of servants rooting for the couple, Katie was thoroughly embarrassed. Nia was very interested in the sweets before her, and eagerly picked up a strawberry cake to taste. Kotti watched quietly from across the table, inwardly remarking that Nia was quite cute when she was quiet. Just then he noticed the corner of the girl's mouth was smudged from eating, and gallantly offered her his own handkerchief. Only then did Nia realize she'd been improper. She'd meant to be elegant like a lady, but had bungled it in the end. Seeing the girl so flustered, Katie quickly reassured her. "We're both children. There's no need to act like grown-ups." Nia was touched by this boy who seemed cold on the outside but was soft-hearted within, and thought Kotti was as sweet as the Duchess. The remark instantly brought a flush to the little one's cheeks. But the words, "just like your mother," pleased him greatly. He decided the girl had good taste. Innocent and pure, she was a special girl. But the next second, he was struck a blow. "You're the only friend my age I've made, besides Radis. His mother and my mother are good friends, so we see each other often. Radis is very kind, and I love playing with him." These words displeased Kotti greatly. "Do you tell everyone you like them?" Nia explained that she didn't say she liked just anyone, only that she had fun when she was with Radis. The girl's sweet smile left Katie momentarily spellbound. Yet it angered him all the more that Nia would speak right in front of him of how much she enjoyed Radis's company. The oblivious girl only belatedly sensed that Katie was unhappy. She patted his head as if to comfort him. "Whenever I'm upset, Mother does this and it always makes me feel much better. Don't you like being patted like this?" Little Katie was in turmoil inside, yet on the surface he calmly refused the girl's comfort, while his heart had already fully accepted this special girl. Watching the two little ones get along so well, Leela and the maid were greatly comforted. Her once cold son had actually invited the little girl to come play again, even promising to have strawberry cake ready. Even little Kotti himself didn't understand why he felt this way around Nia. Watching the lively, cheerful girl, he was utterly helpless. Nia suddenly leaned in and asked Katie why he didn't just call her by name. "We're friends now, so you can call me Nia." Blushing, the little one spoke the girl's name. Not far off, the maid was positively giddy over the pair. By now, the two little ones realized it was getting late. Nia simply grabbed Katie and ran off to find their mothers. The two ladies bade each other a warm farewell. Nia asked Katie whether she could come play with him again. The little one's answer came as a surprise. "I'll have the chef prepare strawberry cake and wait for you to come." This put Leela's mind at ease. It seemed the future plot would not come to pass after all. A few days later, Leela was woken from her sleep early in the morning. Leaning out the window, she saw the maid and Katie with looks of grim determination, holding holy water. She recalled the maid's earlier words. "We must find it!" She hadn't expected them to actually go spraying holy water everywhere, and not just one small bottle. Each person carried a large one. Wealthy as the ducal manor was, this was hardly a way to squander it. The moment she stepped out, she saw a guard standing watch, who was surprised her lady was up so early. Leela explained she'd been woken by the commotion outside and had come to see what was happening. To her surprise, the guard also produced a small bottle of holy water. Today, all the servants are doing a grand cleaning with holy water. Looking at the empty bottle, Leela knew the guard had taken part too. "Of course. We can't allow anything bad to befall you, my lady. Honestly, I don't know whether this counts as a waste of money, but I was determined to join in." Leela couldn't help marveling at how good the people of the manor were to her. "So is there any holy water to spare?" The guard assumed her lady wanted to take part as well. "No, I just don't want to see such expensive holy water all wasted on the floor." Understanding, the guard agreed to send the rest to Lil's room. Meanwhile, the maid and Kotti threw themselves into the task with great enthusiasm. After watching, Leela hurried away, afraid they'd spot her and drag her along. Suddenly touching her bare neck, she remembered she hadn't seen her mother's pendant in a long while. In her memory, she'd traded the pendant to the witch, but the details of that memory remained hazy. For some reason, she kept feeling her life shouldn't be this happy, yet she couldn't recall what memory she was missing. Her thoughts were interrupted by her husband's voice. As ever, he appeared out of nowhere. The Duke explained he had some matters to attend to and was about to head out. "But more importantly, you look troubled. Has something happened?" "You don't have to bear it alone. I'm your husband. Whatever it is, you can tell me." Hearing this, the aide shot off like a rocket, calling out as he ran, "Don't hurry, my lord. Speak your heart freely with my lady." At this, the Duke grumbled that he hadn't told him to do that. "Still, nothing matters more to me than you. Could it be you're angry with me?" Seeing her husband's pitiful, puppy-like expression, Leela quickly said no. But not wanting him to worry about her memory again, she found another excuse. "I don't like the way you address me." The young couple were full of little games. Afraid her husband would worry about her memory again, Leela used the excuse that she didn't like how he addressed her. "I recently met a noblewoman whose husband never calls her by name directly." The blunt husband froze for a few seconds, then quickly caught on and asked his wife what pet name she'd like. This was a proposal entirely to his liking. Blushing, Leela suggested, "Something like darling, sweetheart, or dear. Pick one as a pet name for us. I'd like to have a couple's pet name too, just like Madame Finel." But the Duke said, "Mine doesn't matter. You can just keep calling me Kiri." Only then did Leela remember that Kiri was a pet name to begin with, the only one she could recall when she couldn't think of his full name. "In that case, call me darling." The next second, the Duke called her by it as naturally as could be. Leela could hardly believe the Duke could say such an embarrassing name at once without so much as a blush, while she herself found it mortifying. Just then, Leela remembered the aide who dashed off earlier, wondering if it was wrong to keep him waiting so long. But the Duke said to let him wait. So after their talk, the two agreed to visit her mother's grave a few days later. A few days later, as the family of three made their way to the cemetery, little Kotti wondered where they were going. His mother seemed so sad. Could the person we're visiting be as troublesome as grandfather? No, that person is very precious to mother. The little one still only half understood, but he didn't ask his mother again. And so the three of them reached their destination. Leela looked upon the place where her mother rested. She could tell the Duke had taken great care, keeping it beautifully maintained. At the sight of it, Leela ran to her mother's gravestone. The Duke gave his wife enough time at just the right moment, taking Kotti for a stroll through the nearby forest. Little Kotti didn't understand why the person they'd come to see was still nowhere in sight. This may be a little hard for you to understand, since you're still a child. Kotti was displeased that his father treated him like a child. "I'm the heir to the family. I'm capable of learning and understanding." The Duke ruffled the little one's hair, saying that only proves how young you still are. "Then when can we go back to Mother?" "We need to wait a while. Mother still needs some time." "Then there's something I'm curious about. Grandfather treated Mother so badly. He won't come back, will he?" "Don't worry, he won't be coming to our home again." In truth, the grandfather had already died. But Mother didn't yet know this. Let's keep it a secret from her. Understood, I'll keep it secret. If Mother were to hate you over something again, it would be hard for me. After all, that special bird will bring me a little brother or sister, but only if the husband and wife are deeply in love. The remark left the Duke completely at a loss. The little one continued to warn his father gravely. "If you two quarrel again, I won't get a little brother or sister." Only then did the Duke realize the maid must have told him something. The little one was still going on. "I kept my promise. I hope you'll keep yours too." Just then, a light drizzle began to fall from the sky. And Leela once again came before her mother. "Mother, it's been so long. I have a child of my own now. You were always the one I loved most. Now many people love me too, so from now on, I'll live a life without regret. I'm sorry it took me so long to visit you, but I still love you dearly, more than anyone." The child didn't understand what death was, but he knew this must be someone very important to his mother. As the rain grew heavier, Kotti hurried over to check on his mother, only to see the redness rimming her eyes. So as not to worry the child, Leela claimed it was just from the rain. "Then let's hurry home now." "All right, but before we go, could you pay your respects to her? Just say you're my beloved son." Kotti looked at the gravestone in confusion. "But there's no one there." "Because she's gone on a journey to a faraway star." The little one immediately said he understood and began thinking of how to express himself. "Hello, I'm Mother's most beloved son. My name is Katie, and one day I'll become a greater Duke than Father." After he finished, the Duke draped a raincoat over his son. "It seems my son has great ambitions, but before any of that, you must keep yourself safe." Then he draped another over Leela and asked his wife if she felt any better. "I'm so glad we had the chance to come here together. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting so long. From now on, I will make her the happiest woman alive. Don't worry, rest in peace." By her husband's manner, Leela guessed he must talk with her mother every time he came. So she reached out to take her husband's and son's hands and introduce them. "Mother, look, this is my adorable son. And this is my beloved husband. We've come here together today to see you. I'm living a happy life now, smiling every single day, so don't worry. Rest well. I'll come to visit you often from now on." That night, when Leela returned to her room, she felt an unusual chill. Thinking she was simply exhausted, she soon fell asleep. In her dream, she came to a frozen, snow-covered world. And turning her head, she saw the long-lost photo pendant. As she went forward to chase after it, she saw her former self, holding the pendant and begging the witch to let her see her mother again. "I'm very sorry, but she's already dead. That I cannot do, but I can turn back time 10 years. Leela felt that if she couldn't see her mother, turning back time would be meaningless. But the witch called her a liar. Why would I lie? They say the Winter Witch knows everything, but it seems that's false. Then would you like to make a wager? Let's see whether everything is truly as you say, or whether you're a liar. I'll give you a new life. If it's all just as you claim, then you won't lose. The people there will all love you dearly. Would you like to try? Perhaps you can't live with your mother, but you can still sit back and enjoy a life full of love." In the end, Leela accepted the wager. "Wonderful. Then we have a bet. I'll give you a different life, and I won't erase your old memories either. To prove that I know all, and to prove that forgetting the past will make you happy, I'll grant you a choice. Either live carefree and happy, or recover your memories and become the old Leela once more. If you still wish to live as Leela, then it proves I've won this bet." At the time, Leela was certain that once she had a new life, she would surely give up her old identity, and firmly believed she would win. "Very well, then let this serve as the collateral for our bet." At that, Leela suddenly woke from the dream. She didn't know what the dream meant, but if she chose to go on living as Leela, what price would she have to pay? Little Katie was about to have a baby sister. Ever since that last dream, Leela had been searching for information about the Winter Witch. The maid noticed her lady spent every day in the library and asked what she was looking for, saying perhaps she could help. "I hear you're searching for books about the Winter Witch, my lady. Perhaps you might look in the library in the cellar." It was the first Leela had heard of such a place. The maid explained she'd heard of it from her own mother, who had once been the late Duke's private maid. Back then, she often saw the late Duke going down to the cellar in the dead of night. She didn't know why the former Duke went there so often, but rumor had it that the manor's most precious relics were stored there. Since it was a private library, it must hold information that can't be found here. Leela thought the maid made a good point. Most of the books in this library were children's reading. But the maid wondered why her lady had suddenly taken an interest in the Winter Witch. And so she had a bold idea. Could it be a way to bring another young lady into the manor? Leela hadn't expected the maid's imagination to run so wild, just like the story she'd told Kotti about the special bird. After some hesitation, Leela made her way to the Duke's study. Just as she was thinking about how to broach it, the Duke seemed to sense her and opened the door. "There's something I'd like to talk to you about. Do you have a moment?" And so the Duke agreed to Leela's request under the resentful gaze of his assistant. The assistant could only meekly offer a small reminder. "My lord, we still have a great many documents to approve." But not only did his master hand all the work over to him, he even flaunted his affection right in front of the lonely man. The despairing worker could only wish them a pleasant time together. And so the Duke carried Leela all the way to the forest, only then setting his wife down on the ground. "We used to come here often as children, do you remember? The air here is so fresh, do you know how to ride?" Leela said that as a child her father never allowed it. So a short while later the Duke brought over a horse and lifted Leela onto it. Then the two of them rode through the woods at a leisurely pace. The Duke even promised to make time later to teach Leela to ride. Before they knew it, the two had wandered to the lakeside. This stirred a childhood memory in Leela. The two of them had once chased a bird so far they'd lost track of the time. And as he ran, the young Duke's face grew paler and paler. Only then did Leela notice his back was covered in blood. "It's nothing, a wound just reopened." The unknowing young Leela immediately thought to tell the Duchess. But she was told that the Duchess herself had inflicted those very wounds. Leela simply couldn't believe his own mother had done this. But since he now knew the Duke's secret, it was only right she share one in return. So she told the Duke that the maid was, in fact, her real mother. The woman had finally told her husband about her wager with the witch. Only then did she learn that her husband had once paid a price to the Winter Witch himself. Leela had never forgotten the promise they'd made as children, that the two of them would live happily forever. But after that, the two never saw each other again. The Duke deeply regretted that time. If only he'd told her everything, their relationship wouldn't have grown so distant. Leela, for her part, believed that back then she'd only wanted to vent. "I'm so sorry I hurt you so badly before, and that I hurt our young son too. No matter how many times I apologize, it never feels like enough." The Duke quickly comforted his wife, saying it was all in the past. "But I've been so happy these days. I truly don't want this happiness taken away." The Duke didn't understand why his wife would worry about such a thing. "Because I've already ruined someone's life. Do you know anything about the Winter Witch?" The Duke was surprised his wife would suddenly ask this. Leela decided to confess the truth, not wanting to hide anything from the Duke. "The truth is, I made a bet with the Winter Witch, a bet on whether I was lying. Have you ever thought that our future together might not be a happy one?" The Duke admitted he'd never thought of such a thing. "Because I've always wanted to live happily with you. But I know there's a future like that because I've already lived through such a life. In the end, we never reached a happy ending, and it all closed in regret. I'm the one who ruined your life." As soon as she finished, Leela grew tense, afraid the Duke wouldn't believe her. But the next second, the Duke pulled his wife into his arms. "What was your past life like?" Only then did Leela breathe a sigh of relief, certain she wouldn't have to face it alone from now on. "I love you so much, but I couldn't tell you. Before, I didn't believe I deserved happiness. The first time I met the Winter Witch, I begged her to let me see my mother. But she could only send me back 10 years and she thought I was lying. I believed I wasn't lying, so I made a bet with her that if I had lied, the Winter Witch would win. As Leela, I chose to live with you and Kotti, to make up for my past mistakes. I can't believe I once said I didn't want to live a happy life with you all. The truth is, I really was lying. You are all so precious to me, but since I made the bet, the witch will come to take me away soon." "She wouldn't do that." Leela thought her husband was simply speaking in haste. "I understand how you feel, but our opponent is the Winter Witch. It's truly disheartening. Is there really no other way?" But the Duke suddenly changed the subject. "Do you know why I became the heir to the ducal house? Isn't it because you were born with the same powers as the late Duke? My mother was once a maid. After she gave birth to me, she suddenly received the title of Duchess." Leela remembered the Duchess had died of a terminal illness. "Just as you've guessed, my mother made a bet with the Winter Witch to become Duchess." Leela never imagined the story would unfold this way. Then what was the price of her bet? Her life? No, her illness simply could not be cured. It wasn't until the day she died that the Winter Witch came to me. She told me she'd come to collect the price. The little one was actually sulking because his mother hadn't taken him out. And in the end, he'd won out over his father. Leela had just learned the price the witch had taken from the Duke, that he could never know happiness. He was already so unfortunate. He couldn't bear that the witch would now steal away the happiness he'd worked so hard to find. So he would not allow such a thing to happen again. When the two returned home, they were met by a sullen-faced Kotti. "Where did you and father go? Why didn't you take me?" Leela quickly explained to the little one that they'd only gone out for some fresh air. "If we ever did something fun, we'd surely take you along. If you don't believe me, you can ask father." So she turned to him. "Father, tell him, where did we go?" "Just as mother said, we were only taking a walk nearby." "But weren't you in your lessons just then?" "We were only gone a little while. Don't be angry that we didn't bring you." But this only made Kotti unhappier. "But you take mother out every day. Don't you know I've been holding back from seeing her this whole time, just waiting for that special bird? You really are too unfair." Hearing this, Leela was thoroughly embarrassed. She scolded her husband for not explaining things clearly to their son. But then came another of Katie's piercing questions. "When will that special bird finally bring me my gift?" "Father promised me. He said the bird would bring me a little sister, and mother said she'd give me any gift I wanted. I've been looking forward to it and preparing to be a good big brother." Faced with her son's demands for a sibling, Leela could only promise she'd do her best. Katie's eyes lit up at once. "Mother, will you take care of that special bird? You must have seen it before." "Of course mother knows how to care for it. But your birthday is coming up. Let's think about what kind of sweets you'd like." These words successfully diverted Kotti's attention. Can you make me a great big cake? Of course. I've already thought of how to decorate it. And before your birthday, would you like to take a trip south with Mother? The Duke immediately spoke up. I'll make time to come along too. But his wife played a mischievous trick. I think Father is surely too busy. This trip will be just the two of us, mother and son. Consider it your punishment for keeping the bird a secret from him. Little Kotti gloated from the side. Early the next morning, the Duke came to find Leela. He'd found a book about the Winter Witch in the cellar library. It's a bit more detailed than the one in the fairy tale book. And if there's anything else, you can always come to me for help. I'm willing to do anything for you. Then the Duke went off to work. Reluctant to see her husband go, Leela opened the book he'd brought. Inside were records of the witch's habits and temperament, as if compiled by a family well acquainted with her. She often granted others' wishes out of her boredom with life. To the witch, these were nothing more than games, and it seemed meeting her would be rather difficult. She clung to the hope that the witch granted wishes perhaps because she wished to see destiny utterly transformed. Worrying about it endlessly was of no use. For now, Katie's birthday was the more important matter. As she pondered, a sudden weariness came over her, and in her sleep, she once again found herself in that same place. Leela, it's been a while. Do you still remember me? Then you must know why I've come to find you. Indeed, rivals burned with hostility the moment they met. Little Kotti was already growing jealous. In the dream, the witch came bearing the pendant. Leela knew the witch must have come to claim her price. Oh my, with a look like that, anyone would think I'm the villain. What I take is rightfully owed to me as well. With that, the witch returned the pendant to Leela. But she never said what price she wanted, and even asked Leela whether she thought the witch would take her current happiness as the price. I've come this time to tell you I cannot yet collect my price from you, but I will come for you before this winter ends. You needn't worry too much. I'm quite pleased with the destiny I see for you now. And I'd like to give you a good opportunity. In return, I think you should be a little kinder to me. Rather than worry about me, you should worry about something else, for the destiny you've changed may yet slip away. After Leela woke, she kept pondering the witch's parting words. But in her memory, no great calamity had ever befallen the Empire. Because the Duke guarded the north, all outside invasions and conflicts were easily suppressed. She simply couldn't think of any other possibility. She was so absorbed in thought that she didn't hear the maid calling her. My lady, I wanted to let you know the carriage is ready. Didn't you arrange to have tea with a few of the ladies today? Only then did Leela remember. She quickly asked where Kotti was. Normally at a time like this, he'd already be clinging to her, begging to go. But to her surprise, he'd long since run off to the carriage. Leela hurried outside as well. And sure enough, her son was already waiting at the gate. I'm sorry, Mother forgot to remind you. You're not angry with Mother, are you? Little Kotti quickly turned his head away and said he wasn't. Then why did you come out ahead on your own? You always used to come find Mother first. This made Katie blush at once. Because I wanted to get there quickly. Leela immediately caught on to her son's true feelings. Could it be you want to see Nia soon? Seeing his heart laid bare? Little Kotti shook his head furiously in denial, and only making it more obvious, tugged his mother along. We're going to be late. Leela couldn't help marveling at how adorable her little one's secret feelings were. In the carriage, her son was tense the whole way. He'd promised Nia last time he'd have strawberry cake ready at their next meeting, but this time they weren't meeting at the manor. Then let's just arrange it at our home next time. That way you can give Nia the cake directly. The little one looked quite satisfied at this. Only then did he notice the pendant around his mother's neck. This is something very precious to Mother. Would you like to see it, Katie? And with that, she opened the pendant. The little one curiously asked who it was. Leela didn't know how to explain it to her son. After all, in the child's mind, the Countess was his grandmother. So she said she'd tell him when he was older. And so the two made a promise. The moment they arrived, they found the Marchioness already there, while Kotti looked around as if searching for someone. Are you looking for Nia? The little one immediately denied it, insisting he didn't care in the least where she was. Nia hasn't arrived yet, but Radis is already waiting for you. Kotti bashfully explained he wasn't looking for Nia. Just then, Radis came over too, greeting Leela and Kotti with a polite smile, only to be met with Kotti's jab. She isn't even here yet, and already you're greeting people. Are you talking about me? I worried so much about Nia coming that I ended up late. It's been a while since we had a contest, but let's hold off for today. After all, Nia mustn't get hurt. Kotti thought back to how Nia had said she had fun playing with Radis and felt nothing but contempt. So he demanded to know why Radis called her by her pet name. As it turned out, Katie had wanted to imprison the heroine since childhood. The two little ones had agreed to keep the peace while Nia wasn't there. Radis also learned that Kotti had already met Nia. Leela was glad to see the two make amends. Just then, the Marchioness noticed a carriage arriving behind them and soon saw Madame Finel approaching with Nia. "I'm so sorry we're late. Nia spent far too long choosing her dress." The moment she arrived, the little one ran straight to Leela. "Your Grace, all the dresses you gave me are so lovely. I truly couldn't decide. What do you think of this one?" Inwardly, Leela was cheering wildly. She absolutely had to get Kotti to step up. This daughter-in-law was a must. "You look absolutely beautiful, just like a spring flower. You look lovely in any dress. There's no need to fret over which to wear." Nia was overjoyed to hear it and praised Leela as the most beautiful angel in all the world. "But look over there, they've been waiting for you." Only then did Nia hurriedly bid Leela farewell, greeting Kotti and Radis as she ran toward them. The way she ran without watching where she was going worried them both, and they cried out in unison, "Be careful!" Nia took 2 steps forward and landed steadily. "See, I'm fine. I didn't fall." Only then did the two of them breathe a sigh of relief. Then Nia took both their hands. "I just know the 3 of us will have a wonderful time today." And with that, she pulled them along, running ahead. Meanwhile, the ladies sat down to their gathering. The Marchioness had heard that Leela had taken up riding lately. "Yes, after my husband rode, I grew rather interested in it myself." Madame Finel chimed in from the side. "The Duke is so attentive, it seems he'd do anything for you." "Yes, he's a truly wonderful man." Leela's blush drew gasps from both ladies, who eagerly asked whether there was anything she needed help with. Seeing how enthusiastic the two ladies were, Leela suggested they help her prepare Kotti's birthday party together. Over with the children, the discussion was in full swing. Kotti felt that Radis answered Nia's questions far too half-heartedly, and thought back to how he'd once fretted over the boy's words. Just then, Nia was telling them how cold it had been when she left home that morning, and immediately turned to ask whether Kotti was listening to her. Watching Nia eat with her mouth all messy, Katie answered that he was listening, while wiping the smudge from the corner of her mouth. "Is your pet name really just Nia?" Only then did the little one realize she'd gotten food all over herself. "Thank you. Everyone usually just calls me Nia." This adorable smile instantly captured Katie's heart, and he even found himself wishing he were the only one who could see it. Then he remembered something his mother had once said. "If you love something, you must cherish it. Don't try to possess it. Let it keep its own wings." At the time, he'd even asked his mother, but if it had wings, wouldn't it just fly away? Not necessarily. If you love something and give it freedom and it still returns to you, that proves it loves you just the same. Don't try to cage it to show your love, but give it enough sense of safety. Treat it with all your heart and trust that love will find its way back to you. Katie didn't know why he thought of his mother's words just then, when he heard Nia say that he too could call her by her pet name like everyone else. The little one was instantly bashful, his heart eager to agree. Yet what came out of his mouth was a refusal. "Once you become a lady who doesn't get food all over her face, then I'll call you that." Nia immediately pouted, complaining that Katie was too harsh. But just then, Kotti noticed that Radis showed not the slightest interest in their conversation. Yet that suited him just fine. He only wanted Nia to know how he felt. Leela had only stepped out for a short while, and yet something major happened at the ducal manor. During the day, the little ones were still discussing what to play. "First, I'll go to the garden and look at the new flowers, then have sweets and biscuits with milk. The flowers are so pretty and the biscuits are so good. That's why I love coming to Radis's home. And last time, I even got to pet a horse." Hearing Nia's excited tale, Kotti turned to ask Radis again. "I'll just watch Nia. That's enough for me because she's so cute. Look, just like that." At that moment, Nia's eyes were sparkling at the strawberry cake set before her. "For my birthday, I want to eat a super big strawberry cake. Though the pie I had at the ducal manor last time was good too." The little glutton Nia turned and asked Radis when his birthday was, and learned it was in summer. Then she turned her hopes to Katie. "My birthday is in winter, and it's coming very soon." Nia was thrilled to hear it, and could hardly wait to attend the party. "That means I'll get to eat the same big strawberry pie as last time." Katie promised he'd send invitations to both of them when the time came. Over on the other side, the mothers were also discussing the birthday party. The Marchioness felt a birthday party ought to have many guests. Madame Finel agreed wholeheartedly. She'd invited many people to Nia's birthday, and Nia had been overjoyed. If you need it, we can help you reach out to the other ladies. But Leela firmly declined the offer, because little Kotti didn't like being around people he wasn't close to. In that case, at the very least, we should attend. I think that's a fine idea. After all, the children get along so well. Of course, Kotti would surely love having friends at a small gathering. The two ladies would also prepare things for the children to play with. Still, it's wonderful to enjoy such peaceful days lately. This time of year is usually so chaotic. Leela asked, not understanding. It's because our lands are often beset by conflict. Thanks to the Duke, our territory never falls into disorder. I'm so grateful to have him protecting us. That's why we can enjoy a leisurely afternoon tea like this. Leela realized the Duke might be facing such conflicts, and that he often went off to war. She used to think it was perfectly normal for him to leave so often, never once even seeing him off. Yet the Duke had still done everything in his power to protect her. Now she needed to do something to protect him. The other two ladies were also worried about the state of the border. I can't bear the thought of my beloved husband being hurt. Now Leela shared the very same feeling. Just as all three women were sinking into low spirits, Leela grew even more afraid that the price the witch had spoken of might involve the Duke, so whenever he left, she worried all the more. Just then, Madame Finel suggested giving an embroidered gift. I'm sure the Duke would love it. That's a wonderful idea, but what should I embroider? To this, both ladies answered in unison. Anything made with your heart will do. It will be a symbol of the love between you. You're right, I'll give it careful thought. That evening, the two of them returned to the ducal manor, and the little one suddenly asked Leela how she and father had come to be married. This gave Leela a start. Hadn't her son gone off to play with friends? Why was he asking this? I remember something Mother said while I was playing. You told me that if you truly love something, you mustn't lock it away, but let it fly free. And if it loves me, it will return to my side. I want to know if father is the same. So Leela told Kotti her own story. She'd once thought marriage meant being imprisoned, only later learning that the Duke had quietly held his arms open to protect her all along. Hearing this, Katie hoped that one day he too could be someone's safe haven. Of course, there's no one who wouldn't love our Kotti. And so the two of them arrived at the manor gate. But the scene before her filled Leela with unease. The manor's servants were all lined up neatly, waiting at the entrance. My lady, I have something important to tell you. The Duke was about to set off on campaign once more. Leela gave her husband her blessing as well. Seeing the servants' grave faces at the gate, Leela asked what had happened. Only then did the maid say that the Count had met with an accident on his way here. If they had an accident, does that mean they were hurt too? Seeing the maid hesitate, Leela recalled that the same thing had happened in her past life. The ending was that they had all died. Seeing Kotti listening intently beside them, she didn't want to discuss such things in front of the child. Perhaps the maid had hesitated for the same reason, so she decided to take Kotti inside first. I understand. I'll go speak with the Duke about it later. That night, after finishing his work, the Duke found his wife still awake. Leela explained that she couldn't quite fall asleep. Is it because of the Count? Leela nodded. When I heard the Count had died, I didn't feel the slightest grief. Isn't that strange? And yet I still pretend to be a kind mother, not even telling my son that his grandfather has passed. I think it's strange for a child to see someone who isn't even saddened by a parent's death. The Duke comforted his wife, saying their son might know of it already. In his eyes, the Count was simply the man who hurt his mother. You have no need to grieve for someone who hurt you. Leela knew the Duke was behind it. I'd already guessed, since the Count died in a carriage accident. The Duke admitted he hadn't wanted to let the Count hurt Leela any longer. Do you think what I did was despicable? How could it be despicable? I just didn't want you to dirty your hands over it. And I truly did hate the Count and his wife. They made me act as though nothing had happened after my mother's death. Every day I wished them dead, yet at the same time I was terrified. That was why I never dared resist, letting them control me like a puppet on strings. For my sake, how much more blood must your hands be stained with? Don't worry, as long as I can see your smile, I'd do anything. But I don't want you to be hurt because of me. It's all right, I'm strong enough. Every year around this time, you go off on these expeditions, and each time you return, you act as if nothing happened. You must go through truly dangerous moments. And now you're leaving again so soon? To protect you and our lands, I have no other choice. As a man and a husband, protecting you is my duty. So don't worry, I'll come back safely. The next day, the maid prattled away in the room, saying the Count had finally gotten his just desserts. Is it really all right to speak of a dead man this way? Actually, more than that, I'm worried about how you feel about it, my lady. I never expected you'd still worry for him. A kind soul like you deserves a long life. Leela admitted that she'd felt happy when she heard the news, but she couldn't show it, since he was, after all, her father. But let's forget about him now. I already have people who are truly precious to me. A week later, the day came for the Duke to depart. The maid and Kotti both loved the handkerchief Leela had embroidered, certain the Duke would be delighted to receive it. Kotti, jealous, insisted he wanted one too. By then, the Duke had already come out, fully dressed and ready to leave. Have you come to see me off? The two answered in unison, Of course. I'll return as soon as I can, so don't worry. Then Leela held out the handkerchief she'd embroidered. The Duke was deeply moved to receive it. To celebrate the little one's birthday, Leela had prepared a special gift, and the husband about to set off to war had one too. The Duke gazed joyfully at the handkerchief in his hands. In my mind, I pictured a beautiful, majestic wolf in the snow. It looks so much like you, because you mean more to me than anything. So I'm giving you this handkerchief, so you'll know there's someone waiting for you at home. Don't get hurt. You must come back safely. The Duke stared at the handkerchief, saying nothing for a long while. Leela thought her husband disliked it. I spent so long preparing it, thinking every day about what design would suit you. You mean you thought of me every day? Then I shall treasure it as a family heirloom, passed down for generations. Leela was deeply embarrassed. Why would you keep this as an heirloom? Because it holds all my wife's love and care. It's well worth preserving for a long, long time. Just then, the little one stepped forward and hugged his father too. Don't worry about Mother, just come home safely. Of course, I'll come back safely, for my family is still waiting for me. A few days later, the little one suddenly changed his mind and no longer wanted a birthday party. No matter how Leela tried to persuade him, it was no use. Kotti held firm to his decision. What made you change your mind? You were so excited about the birthday cake before. It turned out little Kotti wanted both his mother and father present to bless him. But for now, his father was still away. Only then did Leela understand what was on her son's mind. Katie, I understand how you feel, but Father would surely most want you to spend a joyful birthday surrounded by everyone. But Father will be sad that he couldn't attend. If that's what you've decided, Katie, then there's nothing Mother can do. In that case, what would you like to do on your birthday? Or where would you like to go? Mother will take you anywhere. It's all right if we don't have a party, but at the very least we should celebrate. If Father knew you did nothing for your birthday because of him, he'd be terribly disappointed. Then perhaps we could invite Radis and Nia to celebrate together. Of course we can. It seems you've all become very good friends. I won't make the cake so big, but I'll still prepare it well. At this, the little one suddenly began to stammer, bashfully telling Leela to put lots and lots of strawberries on the cake. On the day of the birthday, the whole manor was abuzz with activity. The maid directed everyone to decorate carefully. This is the young master's 6th birthday. We mustn't make a single mistake. Leela came out to ask how the cake was coming along. They're all being very careful. It's almost ready. The young master rose early today, too. He said he wanted to go find you. So Leela decided to go find her son first, determined to be the first to wish him well. At his last birthday, the two of them hadn't been so close. In just 1 year, so much had happened. Just then, little Kotti came running from a distance, and Leela placed a birthday hat on his head. The party hasn't even started. Why are you congratulating me now, Mother? Because Mother wanted to be the first to bless you. Are all the festivities ready then? Just about. Now let's change your clothes before the guests arrive. Mother prepared a special outfit for your birthday. The little one was thrilled to hear it. I can't wait to put it on. Clearly, Leela and the maid were just as eager to see Kotti in it. After Katie changed, the maid showered him with praise. But the little one was clearly displeased. Mother, why did you make me dress like this? At last, Kotti's birthday party had arrived. His good friends offered their blessings one after another. Dressed in the outfit his mother had given him, the little one stood at the door to greet them, looking thoroughly displeased. Seeing her son's pouting lips, Leela apologized with a laugh. Do you really feel sorry, Mother? Because your expression looks rather suspicious. It's my birthday today, so I'll grudgingly wear the gift Mother gave me. Next time I'll prepare something that suits you better. Thank you for wearing it today, even though you don't like it. Little Kotti pouted and told his mother not to do this again. Just then the maid came to report that the guests' carriages had arrived. The Marchioness and Madame Finel came to the manor together, with Radis and Nia following close behind. Welcome, everyone. I've prepared lots of treats today. Will you play happily with Kotti? The little ones all happily said they would. Nia was the most direct of all, flinging her arms around Katie in a big hug. Happy birthday! The gesture made Kotti blush instantly. Doing something like that out of nowhere catches me off guard. Please step back a little. Nia didn't mind at all. Why? I'm just so happy to be here to wish you a happy birthday. Radis also stepped forward to present the gift he'd prepared. Just then, Nia remembered she'd left her gift in the carriage, so she couldn't hand Katie his present with her own hands. Kotti put the gift away in his room. Only then did Radis notice Katie's outfit. There's something I'm very curious about. What's the deal with that odd outfit you're wearing? Kotti was too embarrassed to know how to explain. Nia eagerly raised her hand. I know. Aren't those angel wings? They suit you perfectly. Radis then teased, if I'd known you liked wings, I'd have made them your gift. And so the three of them began romping about the hall. Seeing this, Madame Finel hurriedly took out her image orb. Leela and the Marchioness, meanwhile, worried whether the three would get along. It's all right, they're all just children. I'm sure this will be a most delightful gathering. Soon it was time to eat. Everyone offered Kotti their blessings. Leela reminded her son to respond to their good wishes. Katie thought for a moment before speaking. Thank you all so much for your blessings. Even if I haven't been good enough before you, I'll try harder from now on. Hearing this, the servants all sighed that the young master had grown up. Thank you, Radis and Nia, for coming. Of course, we had to come and wish you a happy birthday. Nia's eyes lit up at the sight of Katie's birthday cake. Do you like strawberry cake too? This one looks absolutely delicious. Katie thought of his own favorite, walnut pie. Then remembered Nia loved strawberry cake best, so he bashfully said his favorite was strawberry too. Then we have so much in common. I love strawberries. I prepared lots of strawberry cake so you can enjoy it all at the party. This caught Radis's attention. Katie, don't tell me you actually like Nia. Little Kotti's only wish was for his father to return safely. Radis had picked up on Kotti's feelings. He never expected the two would share the same taste. Just then, Leela asked the little one if he'd like to make a wish over the candles. But Kotti wanted to wait and do it later. There's a favor I'd like to ask of you, Mother. May I? Of course. Mother will hear out any wish of yours. It's nothing big, really. Later tonight, I'd like you to blow out the candles together with me. Leela never imagined her child's request would be something so simple. She couldn't let Kotti relive such a sad past again. So she promised her son they'd blow out the candles together that night. Katie will blow out the candles later. For now, let's have our meal. I hope everyone enjoys today's party. A short while later, everyone began praising the evening's feast. The Marchioness also took out her own image orb. From the very start of dinner, she had been capturing each of the children. Madame Finel watched Nia's table manners as she ate, and remarked that, though her daughter was older than Kotti and Radis, she still seemed just like a child. She's only a child herself, and she's already doing very well. Radis and Kotti, on the other hand, never want to lose to each other, no matter the moment, so they eat with such great care. Leela agreed with the Marchioness. The two boys were both friends and rivals. She felt a pang of regret that she couldn't capture the children's adorable moments. That truly is a shame. Katie is more adorable today than ever. Madame Finel took out an image orb she'd prepared in advance. That's exactly why I prepared this gift for you. Leela never imagined she could have an image orb of her own. Now she could capture Kotti's adorable moments forever. Soon it was evening, and the two ladies prepared to take their leave. Kotti, too, got ready to blow out the candles with his mother. There's still plenty of time. We can take it slow. But I don't want to miss making my wish just because time slipped away. In that case, let's make our wish now. Gazing at the cake before him, Katie solemnly made his wish. Please let my father return home safely. After that, we can travel to the warm south together. Leela never imagined this would be Kotti's wish. Mother, you're supposed to say happy birthday. You're right. Happy birthday, my most beloved son. Meanwhile, far away, the Duke was in his tent devising his next strategy. But the enemy made no moves at all today. If that's the case, does it mean some unknown party is trying to invade us single-handedly? Yes, I suspect it may be some faction at odds with you. This war was surely instigated by them. The Duke couldn't understand why. Merely for his impure bloodline, he was forever branded a traitor. His mother had brought him nothing but harm. Why did everyone want him dead? All he wanted was to protect his lands and his family. The Duke suddenly realized the matter could be put off no longer. If they meant to invade, he would leave none of them alive. If they're willing to trade their lives for mine, then let them pay the price. Kotti was about to have a baby sister. Leela had been feeling utterly exhausted lately. Though she went to bed early every night, her body felt strange. She suspected it was simply because she'd been worrying about too much. She heard Katie had a new tutor. Yes, the young master's old tutor is leaving for the south this winter, so we found a new one. Leela asked about the new tutor's situation. The maid looked a little troubled. Honestly, she seems kind enough, but there's something a bit odd about her. Then she told Leela not to read too much into it, since all the manor's servants welcomed her arrival. But the maid's words still put Leela on guard. Of all the servants, you are the one I trust most. I hope you won't keep anything from me. If you have any doubts, then go and keep an eye on the new tutor by Katie's side. So the maid took on the task. After the maid left, Leela soon drifted into sleep. In her dream, she saw her mother once again. Leela confessed her recent worries to her mother, that she was deeply anxious for the Duke's safety and feared the witch would come to claim her price. She also had one wish to have a daughter of her own. She would surely give boundless love just as you did, Mother. But her mother wiped away Leela's tears and said, I'll come to see you very soon. Leela thought it was only because she missed her mother so much that she'd had such a dream. Just then the maid brought in a bowl of sour fruits she'd gathered. As Leela ate, she asked after the tutor's recent conduct. Perhaps I was overthinking it at first. Unlike other tutors, she treats the young master like a child his own age. Leela didn't understand what she meant. Yes, even though the young master is still small, he's the heir to the ducal house. Most tutors treat him with great formality. Though the maid said this, Leela still had her reservations. So she decided to go and see for herself. She'd also been curious what Kotti looked like during his lessons. This was a chance to observe each of his tutors as well. Kotti, just out of class, was the first to come find his mother. Mother, hold out your hand. Leela held out her hand, puzzled, only for her son to slip a bracelet he'd made himself onto her wrist. Did our Kotti make this? It's so beautiful. Mother will wear it always. Thank you. When father comes home, I want to show it off to him. May mother watch you in your lessons next? Kotti happily agreed to his mother's request and insisted she praise him wherever he did well. That afternoon, Leela sat by and watched her son at his lessons. Kotti studied the knowledge in his books with great seriousness, and the sight of him so focused was simply adorable. Soon the first lesson ended, followed by the new tutor's class. The new tutor introduced herself as Belle, and indeed seemed a kind and gentle young woman. But her earrings caught Leela's attention. To secure her position at the ducal manor, the girl had accepted a gift, which also raised Leela's suspicions. Still, seeing how friendly the girl seemed, Leela assumed it was only the maid's words that had made her wary. Just then, she heard Belle exclaim with delight, "He's so adorable today." Then, realizing it was improper, she hastily apologized to Leela. There's no need to apologize. My son is naturally adorable, so I can hardly blame you for saying so. Yes, he's both adorable and gifted. I hope I can go on being his tutor even after winter ends. Leela was delighted that someone could appreciate Kotti so. At the same time, she noticed Belle's hands, red and trembling. Belle explained that she'd received the recommendation letter suddenly and seized the chance to come at once, never realizing how cold the winters here would be. Leela immediately had the maid fetch a warm garment, thinking the girl must be cold from wearing too little. A short while later, Belle put on the thick clothing and was deeply grateful for Leela's warm gesture. Then she began Katie's lesson. Watching the two of them get along so well, Leela decided her worries had been needless. That night, as Belle headed home, heavy snow began to fall. She couldn't help but think that without the Duchess's clothing, she would surely have frozen. The moment she stepped inside, she saw a red-haired woman. I was on my way home and thought I'd stop by to check on you. I'm the one who recommended you to the ducal house, so naturally I had to make sure you've caused no trouble. This is your first time in this region, isn't it? Yes, the Duchess is so considerate. She even arranged this house for me. And today during the lesson, she came to the young master's room. She's so beautiful and kind. No wonder the young master has grown up so well. Usually children cry and fuss and refuse to study. Some even strike me because they don't like it. But when I met the young master, I was so moved. When he saw me, he said nothing and went straight to his lesson. He even said he wanted to go see his mother afterward. So she showed Kotti the gift she'd brought. In Eastern countries, you can see many bracelets like this. There, they give such bracelets to the people they treasure. Hearing this, Kotti quietly took note of it in his heart. After the lesson, he stopped Belle and asked his tutor to teach him how to make that bracelet. Mother is the most precious person to me. Today, I saw the Duchess wearing the young master's bracelet. Thank you so much for recommending me for this position. The red-haired woman suddenly let out a deranged laugh. It reminded me of a most unpleasant experience. Once, she had hurled cruel words at Leela, and in the end, even her apology had gone unforgiven. Now she had fallen to such a wretched state. Composing herself, the woman quickly grabbed hold of Belle. I'm sorry I frightened you just now. Your whole body is trembling. Belle looked at the woman with some lingering fear. I was only a little cold just now. Yes, the cold here is hard to get used to quickly, but you must like those earrings very much, don't you? After all, they were a precious gift from you, and you told me I had to dress respectably to enter the ducal house. But none of my other things are very valuable, so thank you for giving me something so precious. I do hope you won't be thrown out once winter is over. There's one more thing I'd like to ask you, about the Duke who went off to war. Do you know when he'll return? As long as I can be with Mother, little Kotti was content to go anywhere. Faced with the red-haired woman's question, Belle didn't know how to answer. For a tutor like you, it would be rather difficult to know. I'll be going now. I hope you'll have an answer ready the next time I come. Meanwhile, when the assistant came to deliver documents, he found Leela deeply troubled. She wanted to go out with Kotti, but apart from visiting other nobles, Leela had almost never gone out alone. Considering the recent threat of invasion, the assistant suggested Leela stay within the manor. But if you truly wish to go out, I can help find some safe places. So Leela entrusted the task to the assistant. A few days later, everyone received descriptions and pictures of various places. After looking them over, the maid strongly urged Leela to visit a particular spot. Kotti immediately said that as long as he was with his mother, he'd go anywhere. Seeing so many places, Belle couldn't help marveling. I always thought the north was nothing but cold and darkness. I never knew there was so much to see. She felt she wasn't qualified to help Leela choose a destination. You needn't feel grateful for anything I do. I do it all from my heart and of my own free will, expecting nothing in return. Belle need only do well as Kotti's tutor. Then Leela again asked the little one for his thoughts. If there's anywhere you'd like to go, you must tell me. In that case, you simply must go to Central Avenue. Is there a reason you recommend this place so highly? The maid explained that it was a very beautiful and charming place. Children love going there too because there's so much to enjoy. So you absolutely must go, my lady. The little one chimed in as well, hoping to make happy memories there with his mother. I want to go to the place Daisy recommended. Since her son wanted to go, Leela was sure to agree. Still, Katie hoped to go again next time with his father too. Of course, father will be home safely very soon, and next year we can all go together. This time, let's go and explore this place properly. Leela knew the little one was worried about his father deep down. Just then, Belle took out a hairpin. My father taught me from a young age that when you receive someone's kindness, you should repay it. So I brought a hairpin with a purple crystal in the center, the color of your eyes. I know it isn't anything valuable, but I'd be so happy if you would accept it. Leela knew that compared to anything costly, Belle's sincerity was far more precious. And so she accepted the gift, immediately fastening the hairpin in her hair. Kotti, do you think this suits Mother? The little one was full of praise. Mother looks lovely in anything. That night, Belle returned home in high spirits, only to find the red-haired woman had come again. So she told her what had happened that day. The Duchess is going to Central Avenue with the young master. But what Belle didn't know was that, even as she spoke, a man behind her was watching with predatory eyes. The next second, he struck her on the head. Now we must put our plan into motion at once. To prepare a birthday surprise for his mother, little Kotti fell into the hands of scheming people and was kidnapped. When Belle came to, a sharp pain throbbed in her head. She suddenly realized her hands and feet were bound, while the red-haired woman beside her was plotting something. The man seemed concerned about Kotti's abilities. "I hear he's already awakened the powers of the air." "You're actually worried about a 6-year-old child? What can a boy who only cries for his mother possibly do?" The man maintained that there was no harm in being careful. But the red-haired woman could no longer contain herself. She couldn't wait to see Leela kneeling and begging for mercy. "The tutor we placed in the ducal house gathered information through those earrings. We've bided our time until now. This is the perfect moment for revenge." Hearing this, Belle finally realized they'd been using her all along to steal information from the ducal house. Seeing this, the red-haired woman mercilessly tore the earrings from Belle's ears. "I found you that position, so we've helped each other, really. Thanks to you, I can finally take my revenge alongside my darling. Before we can start a new life, we need money. I've long since grown tired of this miserable existence. So we plan to sell the heir of the ducal house." Meanwhile, Leela was deeply worried about Belle. Ever since receiving the letter that she'd caught a bad cold, there had been no further word. The maid had even sent a doctor, but they simply couldn't reach her. How miserable she must be, falling ill alone in a foreign land, yet there was no finding her anywhere. These past few days, Kotti had also fallen feverish from training too hard, and Leela couldn't help sighing at how mature her son had become. It seemed the planned trip to the plaza would have to be postponed. But to her surprise, the little one was already prepared. The moment Leela arrived, she found her son dressed and ready to go. "Mother, we're going out today, aren't we? Didn't we agree to go play at the plaza today?" Seeing her son so excited, Leela could only remind him to come home at once if he felt unwell. The little one happily agreed. A short while later, the two arrived at the plaza. Looking at the crowded square, Leela told Kotti to be sure to hold her hand. But little Kotti had other things on his mind. Before they'd set out, the maid had reminded him, "Your mother's birthday is coming up. How about buying her a gift to surprise her?" She'd even suggested having a knight hide him away so he could slip off to buy the present. Kotti looked ahead, lost in thought. Leela mistakenly thought her son was interested in the hat shop ahead and suggested they take a look inside. Unexpectedly, all the adorable hats inside seemed perfect for the little one. Every single one looked adorable on him. Thinking of the maid's words, Kotti quickly asked his mother to fetch him the fluffy hat at the back of the shop, then seized the chance to set off with the guard. But to his surprise, the guard couldn't keep up, and in the blink of an eye, Kotti had left him behind. The next second, the little one was scooped up by a man, and his consciousness slowly grew hazy. No one could have foreseen just how powerful a mother's love could be. After Kotti had been taken by the villains, Leela, still none the wiser, was busy choosing hats, until she finally found a fluffy little chick hat and pictured how it would look on her son's head. She turned to have Kotti try it on, but couldn't find the little one anywhere. When she asked the knight, she learned he'd gone off to buy something, a birthday gift for her, no less. Then I suppose I'll just have to pretend I don't know and wait for the surprise. In the meantime, she bought Kotti many gifts. But after a long while, the little one still hadn't returned. That was when she saw a knight come rushing over, bearing dreadful news. "The young master has been taken by unknown men." Leela immediately gathered all the knights to seal off the plaza, commanding them to find the child at once. She too ran through the square searching, endlessly blaming herself for letting go of the child's hand. What if Kotti was the price the witch demanded? Suddenly a fire flared up in one corner of the plaza. Leela rushed toward it, thinking it must be a distress signal from Kotti, never imagining it was a trap the villains had set. A short while later, Leela was brought to a small hut, only to discover that the red-haired woman who'd kidnapped Kotti was none other than the heavy-set woman from the gathering long ago. And without a word, she stomped down on Leela. Seeing this, the little one was beside himself with worry. Leela was still begging the red-haired woman to let Kotti go. "It's not the Duchess who's of value, but the heir. Does it pain you to watch your beloved child vanish before your eyes?" Leela cried out in desperation, "It pains me so much I could die. Are you satisfied now?" The red-haired woman burst out laughing, saying she'd never imagined revenge could be so dull. "Though I do have that foolish tutor Belle to thank for it." Leela wondered how she could possibly know Belle. But the red-haired woman had no intention of explaining, and went on viciously tormenting Leela. Just then, the man returned and stopped the red-haired woman, wanting to take Kotti away at once. The little one looked at his mother lying on the ground, then burst into frightened tears while Leela could only watch helplessly as her child was carried off, just as her own mother had once watched her be taken. All she could do was pray over and over, "Save the child." To her astonishment, the hairpin in her hair suddenly began to glow, and the ropes binding her came loose. The two were stunned that Leela could actually use magic. Katie was carried by the magic back to Leela's side. After checking that the little one was unhurt, Leela meant to take Kotti and leave at once. But seeing the grave wounds on his mother's body, Kotti suddenly muttered that it was all his fault. Leela noticed the child's hands had grown burning hot. "It's all because I acted on my own. I was told to listen to Mother. And now I'm a bad child. Mother will surely come to hate me again." Leela hurried to comfort her son, but Katie was now past hearing any words. The flames on his body began to rage out of control. "It's all because I failed to protect Mother." The first time the little one's power ran wild, it was to protect his mother, believing that her injuries were all his doing. So he wrapped the flames around them both. "Anyone who hurts my mother, I will never forgive." In an instant, the whole room was engulfed in fire. Just then, the knights arrived at the hut. The assassins had all been captured and thrown into the dungeon. Seeing the scene before them, they meant to first take Leela to safety. But Leela refused, remembering the physician's earlier warning to keep the child from using his powers as much as possible. So she ordered the knights to clear the people from the plaza and search for any remaining accomplices, while she herself stayed behind to calm the raging Kotti. She reached out toward the flames only for them to suddenly recoil from her hand. "Stay back. It's all because of me that Mother got hurt. I made Mother sad, so you won't love me anymore." Faced with the child's anguish, Leela quickly comforted him. "How could that be? Kotti is such a kind child. But I can't do anything. I'm a useless child." Leela stepped forward and embraced the child. "That's not true. Mother saw all of Kotti's efforts and how you kept the flames apart to keep from hurting Mother. All Mother wants is to see Kotti smile happily like a child, because you're my most beloved son. It's Mother who failed to protect you. I'm so sorry today's outing has to end here. Let's go home." At last, Kotti was soothed. The villains had already fallen unconscious, and Leela ordered them taken back to the manor and revived. A few days later, Leela wrote a letter she wished to deliver to the Emperor. The assistant understood that her express wish was for no one else to see it. A few days later, in the palace office, the Emperor received a top-secret letter. He was told it had come from the Duchess. He opened it curiously. What sort of letter requires the word top secret? After reading it, the Emperor merely chuckled. It's no wonder Kiri follows her around like a dog chasing its master. In the letter, Leela recounted the events of the past few days and proposed exchanging with the Emperor a piece of information he'd find of interest. The Emperor knew of the recent unrest in the north and guessed it was the cause of such matters. At the same time, he was curious that his friend's unrequited love had finally borne fruit. This was a favor he simply had to grant. So he summoned his subordinates to contact Leela at dawn, while he himself went off to a meeting. "Before they take root in the Empire, I must strangle them in the bud." Just then, a knight came to report the results of the interrogation. The red-haired woman, terrified, had confessed everything before they even questioned her. She'd even revealed Belle's location, and knights had already been sent to bring her back. But the clues revealed that this scheme had not been the red-haired woman's alone. The mastermind behind it was the Dark Guild Rusi. They had approached the red-haired woman while she sought mercenaries, offering to kidnap the ducal heir as her revenge. Leela thought it over briefly, then decided to wait for the Duke's return to deal with it. But the Dark Guild Rusi had never crossed the ducal house in her past life. Sitting idle and waiting was no solution, so Leela resolved to write a letter asking for help. And the only one who could help her now was the Emperor of the Empire. The next day, Leela received the Emperor's reply. But reading it left her quite speechless. She'd known that sharing the information would mean being summoned to the palace, but she never expected to be asked to come together with the Duke. The reason given was that he was afraid the Duke would grow jealous. Still, the matter had a good outcome. Next came dealing with the red-haired woman. A short while later, Leela came to the dungeon, and the moment she entered, she found the two of them quarreling. According to the report, their child had been placed in an orphanage, and they had no intention of taking him back. In Leela's eyes, they were unfit to be parents, unfit even to be called human. In her fury, she shouted at them, "How maddening! and here you two still have the energy to bicker. The price the witch wanted turned out to be the unborn child. After seeking the Emperor's help, Leela came to the dungeon to interrogate them. The red-haired woman quickly shifted the blame, claiming she'd been used by the Pell Guild. Leela couldn't believe that even now the red-haired woman showed no remorse, thinking only of how to escape punishment. Then the man beside her began making excuses too, saying the red-haired woman had drawn him in to make easy money, and that he hadn't directly harmed Kotti, begging for forgiveness. Leela quickly cut the two off. You feel no remorse, only blame each other. I cannot bring myself to show you mercy. You tried to steal away my happiness, so you must pay the price. Then Leela went to her son's room, where the little one still lay feverish. Just then a voice rang out. It looks like he's gravely ill. Leela turned to find the witch herself. Shall I help you? Leela knew the witch must have come with some purpose, and quickly shielded Katie, who lay on the bed. I'm not here to collect my price. He looks to be in great pain, doesn't he? Half doubting, Leela let the witch treat Kotti. Under the witch's magic, Kotti, whose energy had been running wild, finally improved a great deal, and tugged at Leela's sleeve, saying he was sleepy. Mother will stay by your side the whole time. Sleep well. Only then did Leela turn to thank the witch. No need for thanks. Consider it my repayment for the joy you've brought me. Observing your destiny has been ever so amusing. Don't you find it interesting? The smallest of things can change everything. Looking at the hairpin, Leela realized it was the one Belle had given her. The witch had been watching over her through it all along. But that's not why I've come here today. Leela, you lost the bet. As we agreed, I've come today to collect my price. By now, Leela had steeled herself, ready to stake her life to protect those she held dear. What I want is a soul that was never meant to exist in destiny. The child in your belly, I will take. Only then did Leela realize the reason for her recent drowsiness and craving for sour things. This price isn't so bad, is it? After all, that child was never part of your destiny. Even without her, you can go on living a normal life. But this was her child, after all. If the Duke knew of it, he would surely be overjoyed. Even if the child was never meant to be, she exists now. I cannot give my child to you. But anything else more precious, whatever would satisfy you, I will find it for you. Yet the witch's answer remained firm. What I want is the child who defies destiny. Still, since you beg so earnestly, I'll grant you this. Let us make a new wager, and I'll withdraw all my claims. How does that sound? To protect the child in her belly, Leela had no choice but to agree. But the Winter Witch would never make a bet she had no chance of winning. She had to ensure the odds were stacked in her favor. Then I'll tell you the terms of the wager now. Guess whether the Duke, on this campaign, lives or dies. The word struck Leela like a bolt from the blue. Let me say in advance I'll wager on the former. Do you still wish to bet? This was, in effect, forcing her to choose between her husband and her child, and she had no wish to lose the happiness she'd fought so hard to win. You know the outcome of every destiny. That isn't fair. So you must tell me, what are my odds in this wager? The witch was delighted by Leela's reaction. This wager is indeed greatly to my advantage. So I'll tell you how to save the Duke. There is a traitor among your husband's men, secretly passing word to the enemy. Because of him, the Duke will be ambushed. And that blade carries a poison brought from another land. A poison that brings agonizing torment and death within a few days. It requires a special antidote to cure, so your husband's final fate. If you're afraid, you may withdraw from the wager. Leela begged the witch to tell her who the traitor was. To tell you would tip the odds too far in your favor, but cure the poison and your husband will live. Hurry and find the antidote, you have only 5 days. Please, tell me the name of the antidote, I'll go and fetch it myself. And so Leela resolved to set off in person, even as the maid firmly tried to stop her. Leela came alone to the Count's manor. I've come to see Count Hal. You've come a long way, you must be weary. I am Count Hal. What is it you seek from me? Leela had finally, through her own efforts, saved her husband. Guided by the witch's hint, she found Count Hal. I'm so sorry to call so late. I hope you'll understand the urgency of my situation. To her surprise, Count Hal agreed to help at once. This took Leela quite aback. Because you, your grace, are our benefactor. My daughter told me you cured her illness. Whatever you need, you have only to ask. Leela never imagined her small act of kindness would be repaid in this way. Then might I take a look at your greenhouse? There's a certain flower inside that I need. Meanwhile, the Duke too longed to end the war and return home quickly. Yet though everything was proceeding smoothly, he felt a deep unease, afraid something might happen to his wife and son back home. Just as he lay down to sleep, a figure crept stealthily inside, came to the Duke's bedside, and viciously raised a dagger. Luckily, the Duke reacted in time and dodged the blow, and successfully struck back at the assailant. The Duke recognized at a glance that this was a barbarian blade. "Aren't you a new recruit in our order of knights? So you joined with this purpose all along." "That's right. You and I are of the same people, yet you attack us so heartlessly. What a pity. I despise the blood that runs in my own veins. Your people plunder others day after day. It's only natural that no one thinks well of you. The more I suffered in the Empire, the more I came to despise you. But as a young boy, I always hoped people were wrong about them. I even wished to understand my own people, and went to ask my mother about them. Yet her eyes held nothing but power and money, and she never treated those who worked for her as human beings. The ducal manor was nothing but my mother's playground. Whenever I so much as mentioned the servants' treatment, all I received were lashes. When I inherited the title, I wanted to trust you all, but you thought me weak and sought to seize the empire through the north." Just then the villain, weary of the Duke's lengthy speech, hurled a flying blade. Still in the midst of recounting his suffering, the Duke was struck off his guard. The knights, hearing the commotion, rushed in and subdued the villain. Leela, too, had succeeded in making the antidote. This was all thanks to the witch's guidance. She had explained exactly how to prepare it, and had even sent a bird to lead Leela on her way, simply because she found observing other people's lives so very interesting. "Since you've staked your life on this, I must make the wager fair." With the antidote in hand, Leela followed the bird, racing toward the Duke, praying she would be in time to save her husband. No one could have imagined that the witch, whom everyone had taken for the villain, was in fact the one helping their happy ending come to pass. Guided by the bird, Leela found the Duke lying unconscious on the ground. At that moment, the Duke believed it was only a dying hallucination. Seeing her husband on the brink of death, Leela's tears streamed down. But she couldn't get the antidote into him, and waiting any longer would put him in real danger. So she simply took the antidote into her own mouth in one gulp, and passed it into the Duke's. A short while later, the Duke finally awoke, though he still thought he was dreaming. But once he saw Leela, his body no longer felt so heavy. Though he had recovered, Leela still wanted to return to the camp first to check on the Duke's condition. She tried to have the bird lead the way again, but the Duke saw at a glance that it was no ordinary bird. Sure enough, the next second the bird transformed into the witch, startling them both. The Duke quickly shielded Leela, afraid the witch had come to collect the price of the wager. But by now, Leela was brimming with confidence. "Hello, witch. I won the bet, so I owe you no price." "That's right, you won. I'm not so petty a person. Our wager is over, so from now on, enjoy your happy life to the fullest." Hearing this, Leela finally breathed a sigh of relief. The worry she'd carried for so long was at last at an end. "As thanks for the joy you've given me all this time, your future child will be a girl with the Duke's hair in your eyes. Now I must go observe other souls, live well." When Leela woke again, she was already back in the camp, having slept soundly under the warmth of the Duke's magic. Once everything was set in order today, they could set off for home. Leela planned to keep this secret until they reached home. A few days later, the two finally returned to the manor, and the little one was the first to come greet them, grumbling that his mother had left him behind. "You went to find father without even telling me. I'm so angry." "Oh, is that so?" "Mother had wanted to tell you this secret first, Katie. It seems I'll have to tell father first instead." At these words, the little one quickly said he wasn't angry at all, and obediently stepped forward to hug his father. "I'm so happy you came home safely. Tonight after dinner, let's all take a walk in the garden together. And tonight I want to sleep with mother too." But what he most wanted now was to know his mother's secret. Under Kotti's adorable assault, Leela couldn't hold back from telling her son. The little one beamed with delight. "Is it really true, mother?" A little sister was finally on the way. Kotti was overjoyed at the news, and curiously touched his mother's belly. "How amazing! Is my little sister really in there?" "In just a few months, I'll be a big brother." Hearing this, the Duke was utterly bewildered. "I'd meant to tell you over dinner, but Kotti let the secret slip." Just then, Kotti suddenly ran off. He couldn't wait to go prepare a gift for the little sister soon to be born, not even bothering to finish his meal. But the Duke's face darkened. You're not alone anymore. How could you go to such a dangerous place? Leela quickly invoked the child in her belly. Now, the child is still listening. What if she thinks her father is a frightening man? The Duke could only sigh and remind his wife never to do anything so dangerous again. That night, Leela took out the letter the Emperor had sent. After reading it, the Duke burned it without a moment's hesitation. It's nothing but useless words. Pay it no mind. Everything that had happened today was also witnessed by the witch, which reminded her of why she'd made that final bet with Leela. It turned out it had all been the mother offering her own soul in exchange, begging the witch not to rob her daughter of a happy life. She knew she could never be a family with her daughter in this life. But if she could be reborn as Leela's daughter, she could go on loving her and fulfill Leela's wish for a daughter all the same. Hearing this, the witch couldn't help teasing, I took you for a pure soul, yet you're just as cunning as ever. Still, she granted their wish. Come to think of it, it's all quite remarkable. I may never meet souls so interesting again. That is precisely why I shall bless you with a happy future for the rest of your days. Before long, Leela's belly had grown round. Though it snowed today, the weather was not cold. Perhaps the child would be born on a warm spring day. But lately, everyone had been acting strangely. 5 days ago, when she asked after Katie's whereabouts, the tutor's eyes had shifted away. 3 days ago, when she wished to go out for a stroll, the maid had stopped her. 2 days ago, when she went to find the Duke, the assistant had told her he wasn't in. It felt as if everyone were deliberately avoiding her, and at the thought, tears fell of their own accord. Just then, Kotti came to the room. Seeing his mother in tears, he quickly apologized. If you want to know, then come with me. The path ahead shimmered with a soft pink glow. Father did all of this. If you knew, you wouldn't be crying. Leela looked ahead and saw the Duke standing before an elaborately arranged floral arch. I never gave you a proper proposal. Now is the time to confess my feelings to you. Only then did Leela realize everyone had been busy preparing all this time. Listening to her husband's confession, in that moment she felt truly happy. Once spring comes and our child is born, let's hold the wedding all over again. Soon the day of the wedding arrived. Little Kotti stood to the side cradling his baby sister. And so the story too came to its perfect end.